This conference will now be recorded.
Call the meeting to order. Stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
O Lord, as we gather this day to do the important business for the people of the village of Owego, grant us wisdom, compassion, and understanding. Amen.
Hearing. First, as usual, is public comment.
I think I passed you some stuff, but I'm thoroughly excited about bringing this.
Yes, me too.
So I've been chasing this for 5 years. So this is the package for the SAM grant that we were offered 5 years ago from Senator Axshar's office. So.
Yeah, somebody asked me how much it's for. It's
$110,000.
That's right.
And,
Excuse me, sir.
yes.
Would you introduce yourself for the record and for the people?
Oh, I'm sorry, John Loftus. Anybody not know me? You do now.
Thank you, sir.
Former mayor, former trustee, live in the house I grew up in. My backyard is Little League, involved in Little League, the fire department, and a bunch of other stuff.
Biography too.
Yeah,
Your name is not
No,
Frank.
thank you. Thank you.
And my name's not Frank or Raftis.
Right.
Mr. Raftis' family grew up at 161 West Avenue. We grew up at 161 Talking Street, but we used to exchange mail. Raftis and Loftus would get confused with 161.
I can see that.
But Mr. Raftis is where you got worms when you wanted to go fishing,
Okay.
because he had them in the back of his garage. So, more history. And I remember Hyde Park when there was nothing there. That's where we used to play Army, when we used to do that when you were a kid. So, yeah, the SAM grant, and there is a description in there. I talked to Fred a little bit this morning. So Karen Hunter from DASNY and the Office of Budget. I've been in, as Mike knows, because he sees all my notes.
Yep.
I've been chasing the governor's office and everybody for quite some time to finally get this to closure where they think final paperwork after we do some update. But she called me, which was nice, because they had sent an email to Jeff Souls, and when she called me, I said, you might have a problem getting a response.
Yeah.
You gotta have a little humor.
Yeah.
Right? I said, and she talked about her office where she tells young people to pick up the phone and call people. And they tend to rely on email. And I said, but I had been in close contact with her for a long time. So she called me, I forwarded information on to all of you, what needs to be updated. That packet, I think, is everything that was in the original thing. So the different section stuff, it's just some updates to that. I said, one good thing, the mayor's still the same person.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that no, Rusty was on the original thing. I think Charles was.
Yeah.
Fran may have
Bunch of
been.
us.
So I said, some of the
Yeah,
people
sure.
some of the contact and some of the information is still the same. But in discussion with her, some of the scope that was obviously cost 5 years ago aren't the cost of today.
Yeah.
Asphalt being, the big part of the project was both the parking lots being paved, put in, guardrail around the outside that are those posts that are there today, put in some additional lighting, put in a brick concrete walkway that would come out of the parking lot around where you see the sign where the home plate is. And that would come around for handicapped people to come around, and that would tie into the blacktop in front of the concession stand. Like I said, lighting in the parking lot and 4 light poles along where the handicap parking is in the smaller lot when you pull in. And really the ideal thing there was to put globes on top of them that were baseballs.
Nice.
So the whole goal was to create a mini Cooperstown.
Nice.
That was the original concept, but we'll look at the scope, like guardrails, for instance, when I talked to Fred, that was back then, we're talking to Jeff, that the town a lot of times has excess stuff in their thing. Can we do that? Do some shared service stuff. So, whatever you think, if, I can work with Fred with the updated estimates. I already have, it Good Earth Landscaping that gave the original quoting for doing the stamped concrete brick walkway. I've already talked to him that we got to redo the estimate. I'll tell him not to raise it. We're friends from way back, so I'll see how strong I might get him to do that. And then
Charlie does a nice job.
yeah, yeah. So, it's up to you. I can work with Fred, redo the estimates. There's some stuff in there for fencing you see in there that obviously 5 years ago, we've done some of that work that was in there.
Right.
So that's probably about $15,000 or so that can go to those other things, and we'll see kind of how everything shakes out. And Fred and I have talked a couple times about drainage and doing it the right way. So at a minimum, I said, if the parking lot can get paved and you can fix the drainage, that would be huge. As we all know, the park's a pretty unique thing for the community that doesn't cost the taxpayers a lot of money, and now we got back a little bit of taxpayer money. So 5 years, long time.
The wheel is real slow.
Oh, there was, well, and I love it when people said it was never gonna happen, so.
Yeah, I know.
I'm the kind of person, tell me can't, and that's my motivation.
A lot of people said it wasn't gonna. Well, here it is.
There it is. But I will say, Mayor and Board, Karen Hunter, the note that I forwarded you, if we do some of this stuff in parallel, because she says it's going through the process, instead of waiting till it actually gets to her, if we do this, then when it finally gets to hers, that end process will be quicker. I just said, if we wait 5 years, I don't wanna, she said the process is supposed to be 15 days. She goes, it's been 5 years, so do you think the 15-day schedule they'll keep to it? So it might be a month and a half.
Right.
And talking to Fred, we'll probably try to do something spring, but maybe in the fall.
Okay.
So, but anything you do to answer their questions with
Yep.
contacts and all that information, update what they need. And I can work with Fred and all that, we'll get the estimates and those things figured back out. And that way we'll have all the paperwork in line, so it'll be just when it gets to the end, they'll send you, state, I'm sure will send
Oh, yeah, it'll be 100-page thing.
Right.
Yeah.
documents to sign, seal, deliver, stamp,
And it's-
notarize, et cetera, et cetera.
Sam's grant, so it's no match. It's just
Nope, just
free money.
no match, 110,000, and you gotta keep it somewhat within the original scope, but talking with her, it's, obviously you gotta pare back just because asphalt prices 5 years ago were much better than they are today.
That is true.
For sure.
So if you have any other questions, concerns, any problem with me working with Freddie, we'll deal with the estimate side and everybody else can deal with the other legality side. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a note because I'm on a first name basis with probably most of those people at the state now.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing.
And I'm in favor of a slide. Oh, the other thing, I guess somebody came about talking about this slide that's over
Oh, yeah,
there. I have a little different perspective. And I don't know if it was mentioned before. When you look at Little League, and Little League's been that way for a long time, even back when the rec league of Little League, first of all, we've never charged anybody to play, number one. Number two, kids with disabilities, right? We were always open to that. So we've had Down syndrome kids, et cetera, et cetera. So I will tell you, there is a couple children, and I think one of them is maybe autistic, that spends a tremendous amount of time, and the slide's a big deal, right? So, you see that from a different perspective. The whole problem they're saying is it is the wood that's on it. Number one, it's wood. Some people worry about slivers, then they worry about lead paint. So I was just talking to Fred, I'm hearing $11,000 to put a new slide. How big does it need to be? How protective do you need to be? And I go, there's gotta be a simpler solution or a way to create the funding or whatever. But, because the other extreme choice, and we talked about it, is you take the whole playground out. Right? And everybody goes, oh, there's a playground over at the school. Well, that's out of sight and out of mind for parents. And if you have an autistic child, you want to have that ability. It's just one of those things we have. I remember years ago, Rodney remembers this, right? We had damage at the Owego pool. People didn't want to redo the pool. I said, oh, if somebody learns how to swim and save a life, what's it worth? One life, what's it worth? Is it worth 35,000? Is it worth 50? Is it worth 100? What's it worth? So I just give that perspective that there's a lot of other things that go on in that park for the people and their children. And, right, just to keep that in mind, but again, Jeff came before, but I talked to Fred and I have ways of finding ways to do things a little maybe more cost efficiently, even if the wood's the problem, right? Can you cover it with plastic? Can you seal it in differently so you can protect it so it's not, if that's really what the problem is? And see what alternatives are. So if you don't mind, I can work with Fred if we can figure out a way to do it. And if it's, you get hung up with money, right, I'll go chase money.
Right.
But to me, it's worth it for that one autistic kid, because that won't be the first nor the last.
Yeah.
And I know my two grandsons, as soon as their T-ball game's over with, they're like beelining for the slide. That's something, we took the big slides out that we all grew up with in Martin Park,
We all survived.
right? And we seem to,
We talked about that.
we seem to do okay with wax paper flying off that thing. So somehow we try to shield the world and our kids from those things that you learn, like going over your handlebars the first time without a helmet. You go, that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
I think I only need to do that once and realize, which brake's the right one to hit. But it's part of, sometimes we try to shield from everything that you just can't. But I bring that other perspective because I think sometimes, people just look at it and say, oh, it's old, take it out, that solves the solution. But as we all know, right, an autistic child shows up, they're gonna be looking, that's their thing that makes them comfortable. And what's it worth? To me, nobody wants to do it, I'll go figure out how to do it, right? Because that's my wife, my kids and all that have worked with people with disabilities their whole career. So it's sometimes a part that, I'm fascinated the post office doesn't have handicap accessibility. And I don't know how you do that, right? So, I just bring that up as another thing as you're talking about that. Just kind of keep that in mind that Little League does a lot of things besides just a place to play rec league, and we've always embraced those that are less fortunate or have less ability.
Is there any way to get that lead paint off?
Again, we all know what the lead paint requirements are to do anything, right? I'm just, again, sometimes people get in a hurry for trying to figure out solutions to problems. And I just look for, okay, here's the problem and what are the options and really what can you do? One is you totally take it out. That solves it real easy. Two, you replace it. Well, okay, what does that mean? Right? With all the things we have with safety in this day and age, a simple solution of 20 years ago is not a simple solution today. Right? Because we're all worried about, what do you have to put a guard around the thing? I mean, probably, right? Some code somewhere, somebody thought that if you do this, no one's ever going to get hurt, which that's never the case. So really just we'll look and figure out what the options are, really what the opportunity is.
Didn't we determine that it was a matter of like manpower or somebody just being assigned to it?
Possibly. You talking about the slide?
Yeah.
No, we didn't determine anything.
No, I mean, that was gonna be looked at.
I went and looked at it. I'll talk to you about it later.
Yeah,
I'm just.
my point is I'll work with anybody to, because again, I bring up the point of, right, we talk about trying to solution stuff, but it's really, I think more of, right, the child shows up and no slide. And because we made a decision, because we didn't think about it, because we're not that, so we don't come from that perspective, right? We come from different perspectives, but when you add that part to the puzzle, it kind of hopefully changes how people look at what we do and where we spend our money and what we repair or don't repair, and take that into mind, because the rest of us, it's not an issue. So anything I can do to help in that regard, I'm willing to do that too.
Sounds good.
And I'm close enough to it, so it's
Yeah, well, thank you for all your work.
it's my backyard. I just do what I was raised to do. Give back, and it was good to me, right? Like I said, there was no park there when I was a kid. So it's pretty fascinating. Sometimes we forget, the people that enjoy it today, they forget what it took to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And so, that's their point of reference is how everything is today. But that entire place, pretty much, for all intents and purposes, has been community members and volunteers and guys with backhoes. And I always tell the story, my father, we couldn't play and practice baseball until we raked stones. that was part of before you started the practice. So can you imagine today if you told kids, oh, you got to rake for an hour? But it made our arms stronger, so we could, right?
Yeah.
We're better athletes because of it, probably. So, anything else? Thanks for your time. I brought you the package, even though I sent it to everybody. And like I said, I'll work with Fred. We'll get the estimates updated for you so you can submit whatever you need. If there's anything you're missing, let me know. All right? Good?
Thanks, John.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too.
My wife's, oh my gosh, you'll be home early for a change.
Mike, I'm here to comment at some point when Fred makes his report. Rod makes his report, so.
Okay. Anybody else, public comment?
I got a quick one.
Oh, hi,
Hi, let me turn on my camera. So I just wanted to give you guys an update. So the brick DTA proposal that at the last meeting, the resolution was passed. So that was submitted. So that's all good. That's in. And the other resolution that went in was for me to submit to the Clean Energy Internship Program. And we were approved by NYSERDA as a business that could have an intern. And I went through interns and found 3 that seem like they would be good. Actually, one is Binghamton University, 2 are from the climate school. Columbia University has a new climate school. And 1 person from the climate school expressed interest, and the woman from Binghamton University. So we'll reach out and set up and talk to them, and hopefully we'll get ourselves an intern. So, and clean energy communities, that's still going forward too. Laura probably will talk more about that, but I just wanted to give you a quick update. So that's it.
Thanks, Felix. Anybody else, public comment? All right, I'll get into it. So let's do Paul.
I'd like to hear the PRI.
Oh, you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Mike,
we'll go to.
Mike, I'd asked you to do those 2 guys first, but both of them want to be here for
All right,
dinner.
perfect.
Or maybe these guys get to get on here.
There you go. Huh?
We can wait for them to go. I mean.
They want to stick around. Okay, perfect. So there you go. You guys are up.
Just a kind of rough meeting minutes here.
Oh, okay.
Showing some of the stuff we're gonna go over tonight. If you do need to,
Yeah, I got your thing pulled up here.
yeah, we could pull that up too as needed. I know some of this, for some of you, the text is small, I apologize in advance. But that's why we got Mike the flash drive there. This third one here are meeting minutes from a previous, our weekly meeting that we did. I mainly am providing that because it has a specific breakdown we'll reference before. So that's why the date on it is, referencing a previous meeting. And I'll hand that out when we get there. So James Beckham from Hunt. We're here to talk about the Owego DRI projects as a whole. The first thing we wanted to go over are the various project budgets. When we established this project, we broke down the different spending for all the various projects within projects. And throughout that, we've had some budget challenges. Things have been moved around and adjusted. And recently, the state did approve, some of our combining of various projects and adjusting of budgets. So this paper right here with the table shows you essentially the overall. So each line has the starting budget. That's the budget that was awarded by the state. I tried to keep things in red. So those are the things that we either took out or were spent on various items. And then there's some notes there indicating, what it was for and how we did it. And then for some of them, we also listed in black just how the money is being spent, and then some areas in green where we're adding. some of the money to be cost there. So the biggest one there is the art park, which, you know, most of that budget got shifted around. You could see from the first two items were some of the soil testing and contaminations that we did. You know, that money can still be spent on that. You guys don't have to come out of pocket for that. There is a small change order for the field conditions and Lake Street improvement. So if you guys recall that, when we went back through and we changed the sewer area where it was going through and the connections because of what the sewer guys found, we also realized that the catch basins that were to be cleaned out were just masonry dry wells. So part of, you know, doing that after they had dug it up was replacing those catch basins, reconnecting it so that the drainage would act appropriate. Quite a while now, but that did, essentially what happened with that is we used up the field change order, we had a little bit extra from that, and then that's the remaining leftover. The next three items are all Marvin Park, so for various things. The first one is material testing, so we'll have to have some concrete testing and stuff out there. That wasn't covered, you know, under your guys' original budget, so we included that with it. And then the contract award difference. So when we bid out Marvin Park, those budgets, the projects that came back were, you know, significantly higher. So the first thing we did when we did that was we negotiated with the contractor. They agreed to sign a change order to reduce the fee down to the awarded amount, and we allocated the items that we thought were priorities for that. You know, with the understanding that if and when the state approved the budget for the adjustments, that we would put that money back into Marvin Park. You know, there were some debates on where that money was going to go and how it was going to be placed, but in the end, the board sought to, you know, approve that and put that money towards Marvin Park. And then the next item, the 27,000, was just kind of the leftover from this kind of pot with the art park. And so it seemed like the most prudent thing to do with that would be to put it into a contingency fund for Marvin Park. When we set up the contingency fund for that originally, and the field change one, it was based on our budget number of, you know, $1 million. So now with going back to a budget number of $2 million, those numbers obviously need to go up to correspond with that. Usually you do a percentage, is kind of what we were working on there. And then the last two items are the $40,000 for some of our Southside lighting, contributing to some of that process. You could see that comes from two different places, but realizing that the primary objective for the Southside lighting still needed to be met, we needed to adjust some budgets to account for that. So that's what that number item is. And then waterfront, so that's labeled like that. So those are the artistic additions. That one's a little bit weird. If you guys remember, we cut out the Draper Park items, put some of that money into the art park to increase our art park budget, because we were having a hard time getting the budget to actually meet the needs of the art park. Like, we could do everything there to make it usable, but we couldn't afford any art. So we cut the Draper Park items, which was a kayak launch and a small outdoor, you know, point pad. I'm not sure.
I can't call it an amphitheater, but it was a.
Yeah. And then, so that money essentially is just kind of getting moved back to the waterfront projects with the intent that that is our artistic budget. Part of the compromise with the art park was ensuring that we were going to provide some cultural aspect into our community, provide some money into our art like we promised for the DRI, and with the various items with that. And so we held on to that chunk of money and we kind of put it into the art, into the waterfront projects, because we felt like that was the most likely to benefit from having some sort of art in those areas. So with the waterfront projects, that's essentially the, you know, the trail, the waterfront down through Draper Park. Yeah.
Riverwalk and Draper Park.
Yeah.
Are the hydrants going in?
Riverwalk.
Are the hydrants still going in?
Hydrants? You mean the
The hydrants for the walkway. Cleaning?
Yeah, but that's not part of that. That's all already allocated as part of the waterfront project. This is specifically just for that art fund, you know, trying to keep that together and make sure we're holding that core piece of the art park and not, you know, losing everything with that. Any questions on these numbers? The rest of them will be much more simple, so it won't take too long.
I just have a question on the tennis court for the material.
Sure.
We haven't got that, Barbara.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about Marvin Park.
No.
You have all that material that I suggested for base.
Yeah.
So is that gonna be a go or
Well,
free?
so that's yeah. So I mean, that's something we need to finalize with those guys over there. You know, a big part of that was trying to balance all the contingencies and everything with that. I do have that listed in the 2-15 notes.
Okay.
So right there, I have, like, with that broken down, I say, you know, the pending change orders, the field change allowances that are remaining. I broke out all of those items, and those are based on the new budgets, so you guys can see. And so the primary one there, that's the court adjustments for the subgrades. So it's been allocated as it's been discussed. I'm still hoping that number is gonna be lower because we're gonna give them the material, but we need them to sign off on it.
Correct.
But of course, with
I just
everything.
didn't hear anything more, so I didn't know what was going on. with it.
Yeah, no, we just haven't really moved as we're trying to figure out everything and get these guys,
Okay.
you know, moving with the lot of the project, so.
I have one question. Southside Lake,
Yeah, I can jump down to this. So let's,
will the lights be on Southside?
yeah, that's the goal.
That's the change order.
Yeah, so that's the change order. So,
Do you already know what the problem is, the issue? Have you even looked into that yet?
yeah, we have a good idea of what we think the issue is. So previously, I presented you guys with a $20,000 change order that we talked about, and that was for Dyco to work with NICEAG to actually update the power panels and get power connected, because there wasn't actually any power to those lights. So that needed to be brought up to standards, which it was done, or well, the checks were written, NICEAG has them, it's really in their court at this point. And then, so once that power is connected, that $18,000, or well, I guess it's 4,000, the remaining of that, that's being paid to Dyco to check where those conduit breaks are. So they're gonna go through and check each one of those lights and everything and go through and see where the conduit breaks are anticipated.
So it's not just a matter of getting the power and plugging the thing in?
No.
No.
Well, I would love for that, but that's why the change order is as much as it is. It's because we're anticipating, you know, based on the recommendation from Fred and Rick and, you know, the information that we got after that, Dyco can go through there, figure it out. They seem relatively confident in the fix and what they're gonna do, so.
That's what I wanted to know.
Mr. Mayor, no, when they're done.
Once, I mean, you're at the point where you know what the problem is and you're gonna fix it. You're not gonna just get to the core and start digging and find out that something is gonna blow this price up.
No, it shouldn't, yeah.
And I did notice, all those lights have been replaced over there.
Yeah.
They're all.
Yeah, so they all
Ready to go.
needed, those ones on the south side, those ones needed to be replaced.
Correct.
Like, so those, I mean, those all were replaced and good, and that's kind of when we realized, why aren't these lighting on? There's no lights. And so digging into that, NICEAG pointed out, well, you know, we never return power, and if you want power, you have to upgrade these systems.
Right.
And so that's the initial check that you guys wrote for $4,000 to NICEAG.
Mr. Mayor. Gang, James is trying to do this in a particular order. So when he wanted the questions, he did that first box there, and he's doing all those. And he wanted questions about those. He's gonna go along on all these things instead of us shooting at him from every which way. He was trying to follow this in a logical procedure. So that, I'm just saying, that's what he was asking those questions. Now he's gonna do the next piece.
That was in the first box.
Yeah, that was that box.
All right.
Just trying to tell you how his order is trying to go as we throw him things all over.
So the firehouse, the biggest part of that was we initially raised that up, tried to raise that budget knowing that the work we were trying to complete was likely largely outside of that. That budget approval, or that budget amendment was approved a year and a half ago before we even sent all that stuff out. So that 377, that's the first amendment that we already did hoping to try to get the roof and the clock tower installed. We sent it out, bids came back, clock tower alone, over $1 million. So the roof came back though, was, under our projected budget for that. So, the budget items in black at the bottom, that kind of breaks down, so you can see that's our, project award, so that was awarded to Hale. That's gonna be, we did some adjustments to do it through the TIPS program rather than awarding the contract officially. So that process has been going and is, in good hands. The testing we already did, same with that, and then the last two items, the hazardous cleanup and the additional roof sealing. So those are kind of items we're hoping to add on to this. We've talked to the state. They seem to think that as long as the money is spent on the firehouse and that it's still being used in good faith towards the correct goals and the correct directives. We are just waiting for a final number from Hale to say, so you can see we awarded the construction for 169. So those last three items the last two items there, that's essentially what we're waiting for Hale to say. We're going to do these things for this item and just have it.
Rusty?
No, are you done with that right now? I'm gonna ask a question about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we originally asked for 377, the one we asked for, we got 200. We found out it wasn't enough. We went back to them a year and a half ago. We got the extra backup. They said they would give us backup, as I recall, back up to what we had originally asked, that three, almost 400. So
Yep.
They did all that for us. Now these numbers on the bottom come up to about 200,000. Is that all the roof's gonna cost us?
Yep. So the roof right now, the repairs that we had slated originally and
Yeah,
everything.
without the tower, the roof.
Yep, without the tower, that's awarded at the 159,900. That's awarded. That's locked in. There's no way that's going to change.
Yeah, but I understand the other things. So we got the fire budget back up to 377, but we're now down to less than that.
Yeah. So the changes in there, since it came in under and we decided we're not going to award it as part of for the clock tower portion, we decided to bring that money down. And so the 39,000, you add that up to the other Marvin Park contingency that I had listed above. Those two contingencies add up to the 15-20% that we would typically like to see for Marvin Park now that it, doubled in budget.
And the other red is we added 147,000 to our 140,000 to the south side
Yep.
lighting out of the fire department one.
Yep. So that was based on a rough estimate of what we thought, what was given to us from DICO saying, based on the information we provided, what they said that they thought that was going to cost. So in the end, we can't hold them to anything because we still have to do the research to make sure we know where it is. In an awesome magical world, it could be significantly less, but given the amount of unknowns, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up.
And we haven't cleared any of that with the state.
It's all been cleared.
For us to move the fire department money.
Everything on this list has been approved.
Did the state finally approve I didn't know, did they finally approve the art?
Yep, everything on here has been approved. So on the 215 meeting minutes, that's essentially what that breakdown is.
Okay.
Although this one is more organized in table sense. The other one was written more as a memo. So there was a little bit of delay on that. The state had told us, they were pretty sure they were going to approve all this. The main delay was they were considering, because we're not the only community that is struggling with these DRI projects coming back significantly over budget, they were considering putting it all into kind of a pool of money for us. So that we, instead of having to go back to them every time something is a little bit off and we have to shift money around or would like to shift money around, we could do that within, the contract as a whole. This project really, the way it's written, is, I think, 8 different contracts individually with the state, which makes it very difficult to try to move money around. All of these money changes have been approved and combining several of the projects. So like phase 2, where it's technically 3 projects, that being combined as one budget had been previously approved as well.
Okay. I'm trying to remember when we said we were going to move fire station money to Southside Lighting, but I don't remember doing that, but.
It's still part of balancing the overall budget.
Yeah, I just don't remember us. talking about that. Huh?
We didn't do it at a meeting.
I didn't remember, I don't remember when we did that. Okay, yep, I understand. Thank you.
So the parking in Lake Street, South Side, I mean,
Well, let me go back to the fire station though, and a big point in there is that line item hazardous cleanup. That is the room inside the fire station where the pigeons are.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, that's a big deal that the DRI is gonna cover, that we, the village, don't have to cover. Which should make a lot of the firemen very happy.
No, but that has to be done, so. I know it's,
And they did,
shut up, Russ.
the DRI did agree to doing that, even though the DRI project is supposed to be the roof and the clock tower, and exterior kind of stuff. So that's a nice thing.
they agreed that the scope was vague enough that it was being used in the best interest. So Lake Street is just kind of showing where some of that money is being essentially dumped back in between parking, Lake Street and South Side. So you can see the South Side lighting being put back in there and then the small change order for the sewer updates with that. Marvin Park. So that's the same thing as above, it's just showing the green side of it with that money, where it's going and with the new budget. So you can see the 67,000, that's the 27,000 plus the 39 and change added together to provide that contingency, which is referenced on the 215 meeting minutes that was provided to you guys. And then the waterfront, you can see that there are no changes other than adding the 140 that we promised for the artistic additions. Any other questions or discussions on the budgets, where this money is, where it's going, how it's going to be spent, any concerns?
you know, I have some, but it's just, it's the same stuff. Where we're moving money to, whether it's the best idea, and I know it's always later and later and later and more and more and more. That's why I brought up, I don't remember us deciding that we were gonna move that fire station money to these other projects. Somehow that got decided. I don't remember, I write everything down. I don't remember us doing that, but it got decided. That's what Laura and I were just talking about. Yeah.
I mean, if you'd like, I'm happy to circle back around and find the meeting minutes and stuff, because I know I presented all that stuff and laid it out.
Probably did. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly. So that's whatever it is.
Well, I want to touch just briefly on each of the projects, just where they are, whether they're in construction or whatever's going on. And then one of the main things, that needs to be discussed is, the Marvin Park bathroom, how we're going to approach that and finish that off. So just going through all the different projects here. So the art park, as discussed, has been, essentially dropped down to just that bare minimum. The only thing left in there is essentially just paying off those fees that we accumulated in trying to do some of our upfront work. The firehouse, so that has been bid, as previously discussed. It's going through the TAP program. That's all filled out and everything. We're just waiting for, Gary Henry is working directly with Hale, getting, and Johnson Schmidt, who's our WMBE on, the clock tower restoration. But just trying to get that scope within the remaining money and seeing what is left and what we can fully get. The primary goal being, to seal that up.
What sort of timeline do you see on that roof being done?
We contact them weekly.
Yeah.
So at this point, I can't honestly tell you what the hang up is, what they're going for. I'd like to think that they want to just get in and get this done. It's not a ton of work.
Yeah.
So as soon as I have a schedule, I'll give it to you.
Okay, thank you.
But James, the goal is this spring, likely?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is as soon as, they should be good, they've already been awarded, it's been, so many days. They kind of got a little bit of leeway because of the scope change, by, us requesting that they add a little bit to their scope and give us an estimate for it. We just need them to actually give us an updated scope, fee, and schedule for that. So for the parking, lighting, and Lake Street, I mean, that's all completely done. We do have to, do some updating flood permit for a lot of those projects. And we'll get that coordinated as soon as we can.
So James, there's a question that I have for you about the parking, and it's because I've been contacted by Chemung Canal, everyone knows that I work for them, about the Fanny Hyde lot and signage and or striping or arrows on the pavement. We've had a couple of incidents now where we've got customer cars that are being damaged because people are trying to turn very tightly there. So I thought when we talked about doing that, there was gonna be some signage that showed you how to go through that lot and come back to Chemung's drive-through.
Yeah, there is signage. The arrows,
The arrow's been painted over.
well, the arrows were supposed to be painted over because they were never supposed to be put there to begin with.
Yeah. But there was supposed to be some signage that showed you how to navigate the lot.
Yes.
Like placard signage.
Yeah, right. So as you enter where it used to be the exit, people are now confused and if they want to use the drive-through back, they're trying to turn immediately after they get past the drive-through rather than going through the lot. And so we've had.
So they're coming in the wrong direction.
No, they're coming in the new direction.
Cutting it short.
And trying to cut it short rather than going through the lot.
They're trying to
Like a
U-turn
U-turn.
instead of.
Yeah.
Instead of drive through the lot.
Yeah. So we've had 2 incidents now and we've had customer damage that we've had to pay for.
Okay, I'll have to take a closer look at that and see.
Okay.
James, whose responsibility is it to paint over those arrows that weren't supposed to be there?
That fell on to City Street. So, and we had to provide a letter essentially saying that it was, the village's request for them to do that specifically.
Okay. Is there a timeline on that?
I was told by multiple people that those arrows were painted over.
Well, they have been, but they're coming through. The paint's come off.
Okay, I'll have to follow up with them. It's one of those situations where it's one of those things, no matter how much you yell at them, both are not happy with that subcontractor, but had to use them because of state requirements.
Yeah.
So, I'll follow up with them. I'm sure both will be willing to make it on that, so.
Thank you.
I mean, they really should have ground them down and
Rather than they just painted over.
Well, since we're talking about parking, we were under the impression that and maybe we ran out of money and we couldn't do it and all that we were going to do a larger, better dry well for that parking lot. And of course, nothing got done there, and we just had our last deluge and we had the biggest lake that we've ever had there. So something didn't ever happen with that dry well, but probably because we couldn't afford it in the budget.
Yeah, I mean, that was discussed very early in the phase, like trying to, the whole budget for all 4 of those parking lots was 400,000. We discussed that it would cost probably that much just to do a significant storm system in that area. On top of that, there's nowhere to really convey it, so it has to be large enough to, infiltrate all of that water and do that. So I mean, yeah, and so part of where we kind of compromised was like, we'll go through and kind of clean them out as best we can and make them more efficient. Which even that, was pulled back a little bit because they kind of pulling those off. A lot of the cinder blocks and stuff are falling in, they're being damaged. So that's where the original change order came in through for the first lot.
Rusty, how fast did that go away?
Water,
Yeah, after,
Oh.
I mean, obviously, when during the event, but
it takes, it takes a day to go down, or it doesn't go away in 10 minutes or 20 minutes. It's a big lake there and there's nothing on, it takes a long time for that to go away.
Basically like it used to, right? Which
It's,
is,
it was,
it's
no
the reason
change.
that was
I
all
don't-
modeled.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think we took that cover off and did anything to that. We didn't because we couldn't afford it, and we didn't do it. That's, here nor there, it's done now. Just a note.
I mean, we could have DPW clean it out every time it rains, but I mean, that's not really a
No,
feasible
we
thing
kind
to
of talked
do.
about that, and part of what I believe you guys were awarded a recent study for them to look at putting in. I mean, really what you need is an extreme comprehensive storm system for the town. And, you know, that's obviously far outside the scope of this project.
Or pump. Something.
Pump it into the underpass.
Yeah, exactly.
So waterfront projects, I was told it would be beneficial, you know, given the length of time we've already gone through a lot of this stuff, maybe a page turn isn't, viable for tonight with this, but, I'll get that in front of you guys so we can look through it. The plans have been really finished for that for quite a while. If you want hard copies, I have some extra hard copies with me tonight. I believe I've emailed everybody them. We do have you know, we received the final signatures last week for the short environmental form, which is the last thing we needed to be able to submit the DEC permit for floodplain usage. So that's for the waterfront area, the boat dock, and the trail. So that is on, you know, DEC Dan Fuller's list. You know, I called him today, even though we just submitted last week, just to check on it, make sure he got it. So I'm waiting for a response back for him.
Can I take one set of the hard copies?
Do they have numerous sets?
Yeah.
How many sets you
You
got?
got more than one?
I have that and a big set, which you guys can keep as well if you like.
That Rusty wants one too.
No, I want the big set.
This is the big set. So this is specifically for the Riverwalk,
Okay.
and then I'll have one more for the trail as well. Here's the trail. And Mike, you can let me know if you guys would like. I mean, we can get you guys hard record copies sealed and everything to keep here if people want to look at them.
as James mentioned, we do a page turn and review the various parts of the outstanding projects have yet to be bid. If you need any input. So we'll go from there, so.
Never hurts.
There's the trail layout.
Is that something you'd like to have a kind of another workshop or?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
And we can schedule for an off Monday.
What's that?
We can schedule for an off Monday, right? So the first and third are our meetings, but generally the other 2 Mondays, nobody really does workshop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to make, you know, next Monday available to you guys if you guys would like it. To be here and just to go through those in detail and show you guys what we're looking at. So I mean, those are, for all intents, the final drawings, what we intend to build and what we intend to do.
That works. Do you guys want to do that next Monday?
Sorry. Apologize.
Next Monday, a DRI workshop.
Yeah, just to go through those specific prints. We'll just sit here and go through each whole thing on.
Yeah, because I'm not privy with that, where we've made that final choice of moving things up the creek.
So we'll set up that workshop. We'll call it a workshop. Technically, it's a public meeting if we're all here.
So this coming Monday at 7?
So that really brings us to Marvin Park. So we're really in the middle of construction here. So Marvin Park is a number of projects kind of all balled into one. The basketball, pickleball court, the bathroom, playground, the skate park, the crossing, and then the signage and the fence. So as discussed before, when this came in, originally the budget was over $2 million, almost double our actual budget. Hence the need for the budget amendments and the adjustments. So with that, we didn't want to delay the project any further, so we worked with Streeter. They were willing to negotiate with us and, take under the first half of the project, knowing that the money was guaranteed, and then accepting that, the second phase wouldn't be guaranteed unless the state approved it. I would like to discuss, after this, the bathroom. So we've stopped work on this because we needed a flood development permit locally in order to get that approved and to conform with the CRS system and the National Flood Insurance Program that you guys are working with now. So the options kind of broken out here for us. I think I have 5 of them listed here. And so if you guys would prefer, we can go through each one of them individually and talk about them, or we can hear all of them and then just pick a couple that we want to talk about. Is there any preference for approach to this?
So couldn't we start with what's the cheapest and easiest thing to do, which seems like it's the adoption 3 wet flood proof? Right. So maybe we should just hear what they all are and then we'll figure out the combo.
Do noting. Sorry about that.
Noting, yes. It's on there.
So essentially this would be, leave it as it is with a pad with the goal to plan some sort of future thing for it, whether it's some sort of outdoor bathroom or somewhere to put Ed's heads or however that is. Not necessarily the best use of our money, but yeah, so this would completely comply with your NFIP and CRS systems. Your option number 2 would be to continue to build it, but to fully comply. So the 2 ways you would really have to do that would be to make the building watertight below the elevation 813. So currently the finished grade is 804.
It's gotta be 9 feet higher though, right?
Not if you wet flood, or not if you dry flood proof it. So there's a couple options to fully comply. So you could completely, and Laura's been working with Julie, and I think Julie's on there, so feel free to chime in if I'm misrepresenting anything. But there are several ways to meet it exactly. So one of them would be to completely dry flood proof it, so it'd be watertight basically below that elevation. There's a number of calculations and analysis that have to go with that. As far as the engineering side of it, we have to show that the displaced water isn't going to go somewhere else and cause additional damages, that the building itself is structurally sound from hydrostatic pressures. The other option to that would be to raise the whole building up above the elevation. That has its own, set of challenge for that. You would need, ADA ramps to get through there. A lot of the electrical systems and stuff still need to be, raised up regardless of what that height is. So either way, those 2 options are both, very expensive, but no necessarily reason why we couldn't do that other than the financial hardship of actually replacing this bathroom. I did put some rough numbers on here for you. Please take that with a grain of salt and know that we haven't done a formal engineering design and really put hard numbers to these. Something we would usually do more when we get closer to a real decision.
I'm trying to imagine these ADA ramps that would have to go on there. You might as well,
Yeah, so that's a good reason why it's
Elevator.
expensive. If you think about when we did the art park, one of the most expensive things was trying to design those ADA ramps to go up 8 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet. It's expensive. It's a lot of dirt, it's a lot of concrete, it's a lot of labor.
The grade would take them all the way to Price Chopper.
by the time you get up that hill. you have to do it forever.
You lived there.
So
I like the
tho-
elevator.
So those are really our two only options to really completely comply at this moment without needing any extra steps. So the next two options are wet flood-proof the structure below the base flood elevation and raise the utility. That should be 2 feet above the base flood elevation, not 3 feet. But so essentially, in order to do this, though, we have to have headroom in order to raise the water heater above, and there's a panel in there that would also need to be raised up. We could potentially get a higher end panel that is completely watertight, and then we don't need the access platform that would need to be doing it. But either way, raising the building 3 or 4 feet, getting the proper structure to actually support the equipment, the additional piping, you're looking at about $50,000. And one thing to keep in mind is we still need to apply for a variance for that. So that doesn't technically meet the code, so you have to apply for a variance locally, has to be approved. And then only then, it can go to the state. I'm not worried about the state permit. Andrew, the Department of Code and Zoning there, has looked at this and told us there's no reason we wouldn't get approved for that on a variance level. A lot of it is the question on whether or not it is going to affect your guys' flood insurance program or your CRS. So that's kind of the big question. And we've been doing our own kind of research, trying to get a hold of some people, and we want to make sure that whatever variance part of that we apply for isn't going to affect that.
Jim, do we have to have water here?
Yes. That was our
I mean,
first.
many parks have just cold water, that's all you get.
Yeah, I can't speak to and quote exactly, but this was something we looked into specifically. Was one of the first things we did was seeing if we needed. Even the panel, we tried to design it without a panel originally so that we wouldn't need that as well. And we just can't do it with the equipment and everything that needs to be in there.
With code.
Yeah, for building code.
James, as far as raising it up to above the flood level at 813 or above, what was the plan behind that, the structural plan? Just raising the building that high, or?
So the
building a
structural, so
mound
for
of
this
dirt?
point of it, so in order to adhere to the code exactly as it's written, one of the first thing it says is raise it up. Well, obviously in this case, that's not really that practical. One of the examples it does give for, as an option for a variance is just getting the equipment out of it. So we have to raise the building up about 3 feet to get enough headroom to put the equipment up there. But the bottom part of it is all wet flood-proof, which,
Why wouldn't we just build a building taller instead of raising it up?
oh, I'm sorry, that's what I mean, is
Okay.
build the building.
So
taller.
instead of a 10-foot tall building, we're gonna build a 13-foot tall building.
Yeah, yeah.
Get-
Roof goes on.
To get the electric and everything up.
Right.
Yeah, just
So
to
I
bring the
understand.
electrical.
Right.
So and the rest of it, we had already changed out a lot of the fixtures to the non-electric fixtures, all of that stuff. We added the hydrants that Fred had requested for when it, eventually does flood, it can be cleared out. The vents were already part of the design as well as that. So really, the only change for this is, raising that up, applying for that cost, and then getting the variance.
Couldn't that be done by just changing the grade, put a mound of dirt there with a concrete pad on it, and just bring the utilities up to it?
Yeah, it's not gonna be any cheaper to raise the grade and grade it back out and to do any of that than it is to add the couple feet onto the building. I know it seems like it's a little counterintuitive, but
There's a fair amount of fill that's required. When you raise it with grade, you want to make sure that grade, and Fred doesn't want to mow a side slope, so you have to make it essentially a mowable slope 3-on-1.
Yeah.
And when you do that, the amount of earth gets significant when you want to raise it that.
We
Would
could
you also
incorporate
need to
the
remove
handicap
that?
ramps into the grade.
So that's the next part of it too.
Yeah, we
If you
do that.
added all that
Volume,
fill,
right.
you arguably need to then build a storm catch basin or a catch reservoir area that is the
Of
exact
equal volume.
volume to offset
Could
that.
just because the track is there. It would be too steep
Yeah,
to pitch.
there's really not a lot of good options for doing anything with this bathroom as far as trying to meet that. That's kind of why we're in this tough position as far as it is.
So we recently learned, because the building next door, Weitzman's building, just went through this process, and that building is already a good 10 feet higher than this elevation. And that building, it's already at street level. The addition that was built on needed these flood vents, right? And so they applied for the variance. It couldn't get the dry proofing. It wasn't a good candidate because it would need over 6 feet. And so that building's already 10 feet over, and there's not enough room for, dry proofing. And the only option was the wet flood proofing. So this bathroom, talking about dry proofing it when it's so far under, like you can't really, dry proofing isn't an option for something that's
I would agree.
so far down. So like, we can't really talk about this option too that you've provided.
I'm pretty much crossing them off the list.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these options, I mean, they all have, pros and cons. So I would say that that's one that we're putting on there to show you that it is an option, whether or not it's actually viable or the route you want to go.
Well, can I say one more piece about that? So we'd have to dry proof the building up to the BFE +2. And then from there, the building would have to, because that's how you get in, so that's the door in now, so it's gotta be another
Yeah, it's gotta be
13 feet above that.
That's the ski lift.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that's why it was, that part of it at least was established pretty early that, raising the building, doing all of that work really wasn't a viable option.
So it seems like options 3, 4, and 5 would be the ones that are
Yeah.
available to us.
So
Or one.
Yeah,
I like
right.
the number one option. I mean, just leave it, do what you had,
Do noting.
do notate.
so
And just leave that pad and we can bring in seasonal restrooms.
Yeah. So option 4 essentially is the same as option 3. The only difference is what you are applying for as far as the variance. So while this one would strictly speaking be cheaper, this is your cheapest, easiest option.
Option 4.
Yeah, there is some uncertainty on how that is going to impact the CSR or the National Flood Insurance Program.
Right, but we can't be penny wise and pound foolish. We've invested a great deal, granted the funds aren't ours, they come from the state, but so we took out a bathroom, which, may or may not have been functional. We've invested a lot of money in having a bathroom there because it is at times a highly trafficked, venue, if you will. So it seems like why would we have gone through all of this exercise if we weren't going to have a bathroom there? And it seems like for $4,000 or $5,000, it would be worth trying to apply for the variances that would be required to do number 4.
I would agree, but there are very real risks. I mean, if you consider the resources you guys put into the CRS and the National Flood Insurance Program, if you guys go down that route and approve it, you do open yourself up to some level of risk.
Yeah.
There is
But
no
the level
harm.
of risk is a theoretical 5% reduction 20 years from now in our citizens' flood insurance
Yeah.
Rates, premiums per year. And if the average, this is not my math, I heard this from someone else. If the average flood insurance premium is $2,000 a year, 5% of that is what? $100.
That's incorrect information. I mean,
submit that we're penny wise and pound foolish, though.
but
We're not gonna have a bathroom here because we want to theoretically 20 years from now achieve 100%, $100 reduction on people's flood insurance bills?
That's not an accurate statement. I mean, the goal would be a 20% flood insurance. I think as it stands now, we would probably go into the program at a 10% reduction. And our goal is to be in the program within 3 or 4 years. So the biggest obstacle now is the problems created by the DRI to getting into the program.
And this one bathroom in a park is.
Not going to help us. If we flout NFIP regulation and then ask to get into a program that rewards people for going above minimum floodplain standards, it could really hurt us. I mean, putting a building 9 feet below base flood elevation is not a good idea. This was not a good idea.
But it's my turn. Well, but there was one there before.
Well, but that was grandfathered in if it was old enough. This isn't. Now you build new construction, there's no grandfathering.
Yeah, right.
Mike, if I might? So I'm certainly understanding everything that Ed's talking about here on this and what our things are. One of the things, of course, the worry is we are just now getting our CAM violations from 2019 cleared up. And if we don't have those all cleared up, we can't do any of the stuff we want to do. That's why we're trying to get Weissman's cleared up. They haven't started to do the 2019 ones on, this is the word, of course. So they come in, and if they come in and they do the new ones and they say, well, you did this before and you built it and you can't do that. And all of a sudden now we're in violation. That's the word. I don't know if it's going to come to pass, but now all of a sudden we're in violation again. And if we have one violation, we can't play. We can't be anything. This is the whole conflict and trouble of all this.
Also, the NFIP is the law of the land. It's the regulations. We don't get to decide whether we're going to follow those codes and, that the government's provided for us.
No, that's not true. That's if you want to seek reimbursement from them for a loss.
No.
No, that's if you want to have flood insurance.
If you want flood insurance, you can pay for flood insurance. But the village has adopted laws of the NFIP. The village is a participant in NFIP since like the 60s or the 70s.
Yeah.
Right. So the CRS.
But that doesn't make it the law of the land. That makes it a law that we've adopted.
It makes it the law of being a participating community in the National Flood Insurance Program, which means if you want flood insurance, you follow those rules. And the FEMA could say, we kick you out, you can't get NFIP. If it got bad, they have the ability to throw you out of the National Flood. That would be a very extreme action. I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm not saying over a bathroom. I'm saying if there's a community in significant violation of the implementation of the National Flood Insurance Program, FEMA can kick you out of the program. They have the power to do that.
Right.
In this case, I'm not saying they're going to do it over this, but creating a track record of non-compliance is not helpful or advisable because the whole point of the National Flood Insurance Program is to protect life and property from flood. And every variance goes against the goal of protecting life and property from flood.
So we have been looking into it. And, I think one of the folks that I did speak with respect to the placement of the bathroom, albeit there was one there before and it grandfathered in and what have you. One of the best uses of the land, a floodplain, would be a park or a fairground or something like that, as opposed to more buildings or more development and things of that nature. And when you have a park or you have a fairgrounds and you bring people together, you have to provide restroom facilities.
Right.
And in our questioning, we can document more of our conversations, but in our questioning, one of the initial questions we had was, do you think this would adversely impact the village's chance of getting into the CRS or staying within the CRS, or would it be an adverse impact to the village? And we didn't receive any resistance to that. Nobody had indicated that they felt that would be a problem. They felt it would be an adverse impact. I get what Ms. Nurchi is saying, and what others have brought up as well. But it's a unique circumstance, and it's an area which I think there's mitigation for. And you can minimize the impact. And I think as James has reached out to others, that the opportunity for a variance is there. And both from the state, and if they viewed it much like, if they felt it was an adverse impact or threat to property or life, then they obviously wouldn't issue a variance. So we can document that. After, I had heard some of these concerns at the end of last week, I started researching that. We can document that as well here in the near term. We can send you something this week. But obviously, it's not the greatest situation in the world. However, there is a floodplain, there is a need to gather people, and there is a need to provide, bathroom facilities such they're accessible. I know James had looked at other options as well, but it's not something we're taking lightly either. And we want to make sure it's good not only for the village, but for its users, and not going to cause a cost impact to the village, or potentially, folks that are getting flood insurance in the village, in years to come. So.
I said it before and I'll say it again. I think the best way to go about this is getting seasonal porta potties on that little pad there, because when it floods, if there's an imminent flood, we can transport these things above flood level and save whatever we want to save in a porta potty. It's only during the hot summer months when we have fairs and stuff that these things are used. Look at it now. It's winter time. Well, it doesn't feel like winter now, but there's nothing happening in that park. There should be nobody in that park wanting to use the bathroom right now. And it'll stop vandalism. You don't have to worry about vandalism when the place is not occupied. Just seasonal porta potties. I mean, come on. There's so many arguments against all these other phases, all these other raising this, lowering that. It's logical, as Spock would say.
Well, it is, but it isn't, right? So porta potties are not free.
Well,
Especially
yeah, but the money that
fancy
you'll
ones.
save,
But we don't get to save that DRI money and use it for our budget to buy the porta potties. We have to find the money out of our general fund budget to fund those porta potties every single year, when we struggle to fund the pool every year.
I would also posit that.
And they're gonna be about the same cost.
I think porta potty removal in the event of an imminent flood would be low on the list of priorities.
Yeah.
So that.
Well, wouldn't they close?
Yeah, right.
Rusty?
So I'm going to try to distill this down. If we were allowed to do it, if we could hope and have a reasonable hope that the good and sufficient cause and exceptional hardship would work out in our favor, of course, the best plan is to build it as we are, and if we get a flood, great big flood, we lose the $4,000 or $5,000 that it costs for the sub. That's our best plan, except of course, how much is the risk? How much is the risk with all of this? That's the linchpin. Other than that, that is the plan. We were already there, we're already building it, we're already on schedule to do all this stuff in option 4. And I know Tim is trying to help us by checking with various people and stuff. We know what our monster downside is, so what's the gamble, what's the risk? Do we want to do that plan? And porta potties couldn't be done. We haven't talked about a bathroom at the swimming pool yet, so that's still something.
I don't see that happening either. How do you just
They didn't quite
provide that
get
with
through
a
all the
fence?
options there before.
Yeah, we didn't get to that one yet.
Conversations
Well,
about it.
What were you saying, Charles, about it?
I mean, the fencing, how are you gonna separate that? You're gonna make an entrance on the opposite side?
There is an entrance on the opposite side.
No, I'm talking about on the back wall,
Yeah, there's
facing
a,
Weissman's,
I'm sorry?
facing White's house.
There's two ways up into the swimming pool.
Yeah.
So we've already got a ramp and a way up into the swimming pool from the tennis court. We have the structure built. You could put inside the swimming pool, I'm not saying to do this, but you could put inside the swimming pool a great big fence, but we already have a fence now to keep the people out of the swimming pool. You could put a fence between that gate that goes into the pool and the waters itself. You could do that so people could get into the bathrooms and not get into the pool itself. We already have, I'm not saying that I'm just saying you could do it.
Our risk there, I mean, I'll jump in with.
Yeah, sure.
And but our risk there is once we touch that building, we may have to bring that one.
Same thing.
And it's not BFE +2. It's
where
lower than the Weitzman building.
Yeah, but it's still in the foot.
It is at 806 is the floor elevation for that,
As soon as we
and
touch
it
something.
would need to be brought up to 800 feet.
Yeah, so it's still 7 feet.
Okay, so that's.
So can I say something? The only time it has to become compliant is if it's substantially improved. So you have to invest, more than 50% of the value of the building in it to hit the substantial improvement threshold, which would trigger compliance. So it's not touching the building, it's significantly touching the building, just something to keep in mind. The other thing with respect to the bathroom, if you can put it on a crawl space so you get the floor up 4 feet higher, build it, then get the ceiling high enough that you could get the panel high enough and wet flood proof it, you may be able to make that compliant enough that it's okay, right? The electrical's got to be at BFE. Wet flood proofing, the DEC and FEMA are okay with. So if you can wet flood proof it and get the electrical at minimum BFE, preferably BFE +2, this could work, right? That's going to cost money, and that's the thing that has to be considered. But it isn't that there's no solution. I don't have the advantage of seeing the paper you're looking at, but I just wanted you guys to just understand that substantial improvement, is a 50% threshold. That's it.
So you build the,
Julie, can you clarify something for me, just real quick? I believe the wet flood proofing is given as an example to accept. We still need to apply for a variance if we do that, correct?
Yes, so because the way it's a commercial building, so commercial buildings by the law of NFIP land would be dry flood proofed. Dry flood proofing of a distance, an elevation that high, as Laura said, is not feasible. Both FEMA and the DEC are amenable to the wet floodproofing variance. There's really not an issue with that. What's not going to fly is leaving electrical below BFE. That's not going to fly because there's risk, and it should be BFE +2. But if you can get it so the switches, the lights are on sensors and the electrical is at BFE or above, then that may be a tenable pathway. I'm not worried about a wet floodproofing variance.
By definition, isn't wet floodproofing moving the impacted systems out of the BFE?
No, getting the electrical above. So the electrical all needs to be up above BFE, ideally BFE +2. In this case, wet floodproofing would mean that if there's a crawl space, you have flood vents, so you get an equalization of hydrostatic pressure, right? The vent opens up and the water circulates under the building, so you don't risk foundation collapse. The other thing you would do is you would probably just tile the walls so that they're water impervious. So wet floodproofing encompasses more than just protection of electrical. The electrical is just going to have to be up there. Your wet floodproofing from 804 feet you're wet floodproofing the whole structure, way well below BFE is where that wet floodproofing is happening. Does that make sense?
Are you saying that a building could be wet flood-proofed and have the electrical below BFE?
No. Well, if you would have to,
So
if
electrical
you
has to be
put
out of
the,
BFE?
just let me speak.
My
Wet
question was about the other
floodproofing,
thing. Julie,
I
my
just,
question was about the other things. My question was about, can you have electric in BFE and meet wet floodproofing?
if
No,
you
you
wet
can't.
floodproof
If you
the
do,
entire building, but just
I don't get
dry floodproof around the electrical below BFE, you can do that.
I'm speaking.
I
Wet
just
floodproofing.
answered your question.
No, you didn't. You were speaking over me. Electrical cannot be in BFE, below BFE, for wet floodproofing. Yes or no?
So if you wet floodproof an entire building, you can do that. But if the electrical in that building is below BFE, that little part around a heating system would have to be dry floodproofed within a building that in its entirety is wet floodproof. Do you see what I'm saying? You don't have to wet floodproof the whole building. You would have to just wet floodproof the heating system in that building.
You're answering a question that wasn't asked.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. You can dry floodproof the electrical within a wet floodproof building to minimize the amount of dry floodproofing. If that is my understanding of your question. Is that
No.
not your question?
Was, can you have electrical below BFE if a building is considered wet floodproofed?
Only wet floodproof? No. No.
Can I jump in?
I don't understand where the misunderstanding is.
I'm gonna
So
try.
yes, you have to do other things in order for the building to be wet floodproofed.
Utilities are totally separate than wet proofing.
Yeah,
Can I jump in?
you're convoluting two things.
I'm gonna solve this if I'm allowed to speak.
I don't think it's gonna be solved.
That
Is this-
solved the problem,
is
I'm
this
gonna solve
be-
the
this
answer.
Is this discussion gonna be
So I'm not
covered
gonna speak.
next, no, you can speak after I say this. Is this discussion gonna be hashed at next Monday's meeting?
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, but that's what the meeting is for, right?
So,
No, next Monday is.
not to put too much pressure on you guys, but the contractor wants to get this done. He's looking at March 11th to do whatever you guys decide as getting that. Short of that, you're looking at a schedule conflict. He's got other priorities. We've already held him up for.
I just don't see an end to this tonight. This is gonna go on and on. These chairs hurt. Oh, I'm sorry.
Floor, I'm
Must be
sorry.
correct.
Must be me when I asked to speak.
I'm sorry.
Okay. The way I'm hearing this is if you wet floodproof, the electric has to be above BFE. If you don't, so you wet floodproof most of the building. If you don't put the electric above BFE, if you put it below, you have to compartmentalize that piece that you put below and dry that one section in somehow, some way. I think that's what.
You gotta make a waterproof box.
Yeah, something like that. Now, the thing I know this is foolish, but the thing I was thinking was, can you build the building and have a little bitty cupola up above instead of a whole big building that for $50,000 more, $100,000 more, just a little
Yeah,
bitty
just for
thing
the
to put the electric in.
Where it would be
Just a
above
little bitty
BFE,
thing up above the.
and it would meet the wet flood.
So the rest of the building is here and we make this little tower, this little BFE.
Clock tower.
A little clock tower, a little clock tower. I don't know, just another thought about that, about doing it without a bazillion bucks and trying to do that partially. I don't know.
Yeah, I get where you're going with that. There's a lot of requirements on access. I mean, you can only make it so small before, I mean, so if we even put the panel up there, you have to have a platform that's large enough for someone to stand in front of it and have access to the panel. Like, so, I mean, that's a whole nother aspect of it, or just to meet building code. So, I
The
mean,
bottom line is that the electrical needs to be above BFE plus 2 feet in order for the building to be wet flood proofed from an electrical standpoint.
well, no, because you can have an electrical disconnect. The electrical equipment would be damaged. That's essentially
Okay.
what you're
Yeah.
preventing.
Okay.
But
So
either
there's
way,
a disconnect in that.
well, there's a disconnect in there. That's how we designed it.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
so essentially, the situation is whether or not you believe it meets the requirements for a variance. So under I listed I think it's after option 2, the 3 options. So if you're gonna apply for a variance, so whether you wet flood proof it or whether you build in this BFE, you have to apply for a variance. And whether or not that variance is in violation is ultimately up to FEMA and
Yeah.
NFPI
Right.
and stuff. So that's really where your thing is. So whether or not you believe which of these options meets all of those criteria, does or doesn't, how much your risk is, that's essentially where your decision lies.
It seems like we could make a very good case for the good and sufficient cause and exceptional hardship.
So, and the difference between option 3 and option 4, right, just moving those utilities.
Option 3 is more expensive.
BFE, right, well, option 3 is about $50,000
Yeah.
more.
Right.
To protect $4,000
With
worth
the
of stuff.
stuff.
So we could replace that same stuff 10 times.
Right.
For the same money we'll spend to do option.
Mr. Mayor?
If it floods.
Yes.
And I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but something is striking me that when someplace that we were reading the rules and stuff, in order to have the variance for the good and sufficient cause and exceptional hardship, it wasn't supposed to be monetary.
Yeah.
I'm remembering that. So if we want to make that case, and we want to make it the monetary, we don't want to spend an extra 50, we want to spend 200, we want to, I don't know if I've got that right or if I remember.
No, you do have it right.
That's problematic too.
So the problem with looking at that specifically though is if that's the case, you guys have no reason not to do option 2 because the only obstacle for that is monetary.
Option 5 is better than option 2 for
Yep.
actually following regulations that are
Okay.
for safety, public safety.
So in order to make life better for our residents, we've made life worse for our residents by not having a bathroom.
Long-term planning, the federal government wants us to stop allowing building and construction and development in really low lands. So all new development and all substantial development needs to follow like regulations and codes, right?
Sure.
And we are observing building and stuff. And while this is a public park and our first project that we're talking about this way, as the village as a whole, there's a lot of our buildings are really low. And like, this is just our first example, and we're talking about a bathroom, giving a variance to a bathroom. Everybody else with a project is gonna say, give me a variance, give me a variance. You can't do that.
But everybody else is not the village who's responsible for the public welfare of our citizens.
And we're leading an example, and we can't.
By replacing a bathroom? That's absurd.
Once it gets to be voted and for a variance, one of the questions is about public safety. There's nothing about this that will pass that test. You can't put something that far below BFE because you can only ask for one variance. You would have to ask for a variance for the elevation, then you'd have to ask for a variance for the utilities, then you'd have to ask for the variance for the wet proofing. And you can't do that.
I don't understand the public safety argument because you're not gonna be there in a flood, you can't be there, we're gonna evacuate you.
Right.
And you're not gonna get electrocuted because the electric shuts off.
Right.
So FEMA bulletins describe what the public safety issues are. It's for our responders who are going to help people. It's the fact that
The bathroom at Market Park?
yeah, don't laugh about public safety, right? This is true stuff. Our responders have to go to help people, and it's not okay for us to allow a building that's unsafe. And we'd be observing it.
But it has nothing to
We
do
would
with
be
whether,
doing the
but
building.
that has nothing to do with whether there's a building there or not. If, there's still multiple structures within the fairgrounds where someone could be. It's got nothing to do with whether we've got an electrical with shut off there,
This is
or whether
new-
we've wet flood proofed
All new
the
development.
building.
All new development has to follow these safety standards.
But you're making an argument that doesn't, that there's no logic behind that.
Like, if I might, it's my turn. When it is my turn, just let me know.
Sure, we got,
So back to all, we're having a discussion, this is what we have to do. We just said the good cause and exceptional hardship deal may not work for money, but it certainly ought to work for safety, because the bathroom isn't gonna be a safety issue. So that argument shouldn't be, we should be able to overcome that argument.
It's a public health issue, not having a bathroom.
Yeah, if it gets, then if it gets flooded, we have to do all the things you have to do to make it clean again.
well, as far as what do you put in a floodplain or a flood area, right? I mean, that park is made to flood. It's made for the creek to fill it. That's
Can
what
we
you
build
put.
a knee wall, wood knee wall? And have a steeper pitch roof and have it up in the attic?
I'm sorry, I'm not,
Different roof.
Instead of going up 4 foot with block and cost us so much money, it'd be a heck of a lot cheaper if you just stud up the wall.
the cost is in labor primarily, like having guys out there to pay and do all that.
It just totally still blows my mind to do 4 courses of block for that price.
Well, I mean, there's the movement of the electrical stuff, all the connections that have to go in, additional material.
I mean, like with that, you put it, it's rough.
So my question is, do we have, it goes back to the budget, but do we have the budget to do option 3?
With the
Extra
contingency that we've added because of that, with some level of forethought, we did put some extra money into Marvin Park, realizing that this will use up basically all of your contingency. So, you're kind of back at where you were before, where, well, we've still got phase 2 to happen, and now we've got no contingency budget.
And we don't even want to talk about, every time I've spoken to almost every single resident of this village of Owego, and we tell them, we got $10 million, and we're going to put $2 million into Marvin Park, and here's what phase 2 is going to be, and here's how much it's going to cost. Oh, my. Are there things to leave out of phase 2 and use for these kinds of things?
Phase 2 is only the skate park and the playground.
The crossing as well.
Do it,
On the crossing.
do it.
Okay.
The budget drives from, we're working on a state contract with MWVs and
Yeah,
lots
I
of
mean, that's a
requirements.
big part of it, like when you're
Prevailing
paying those
wage.
guys prevailing wage, numbers go up.
These numbers would be half if you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, that's back to Freddie's point. We half, we could probably build that bathroom for $100,000 instead of $600,000.
Yeah.
But that's another story.
So Fred, you basically said, hey, can we put an attic there?
Yeah.
And put the electric in the attic.
Yeah.
We'll verify that. I know that James had talked to some of these structural and architectural.
What's the roof on?
Well,
What's the roof on the new building?
Yeah, make the pitch
Is
higher.
it it's what I'm saying, make the pitch higher.
Yeah,
Put it in
that's
the-
already established. So we've done the design
Right.
for the equipment, raising it, the courses, done it. That estimate is, I call it a rough estimate because we didn't,
Right.
break down every component. We didn't put it to streeter. But I mean, we've done the full design. Like
Right.
that's all there and ready to go for option 3 as far as raising that up. So, I mean, that's the minimum that we need to do to get the clearance for the equipment that's up there.
And we don't need room for hot water heater, right? We're gonna change into on demand. That's all we need is water for the sinks. Something cheaper, smaller, less room.
Yeah, nobody's going in there to take a bath.
So I think we're already at the smallest water heater. I mean, it's like a 15 gallon.
So that's gonna run all the time when they're not using it.
Yeah, I have to look at the exact drawings to see what.
Cause I did talk
What
to
we
you about
specify.
putting on demand, and when we need water,
Yeah,
that's when they
demand.
ask for it.
And that could be easily done.
Yeah.
But I think, we'll verify that we can't do anything with an attic.
I mean, it was just a
Or
suggestion.
increasing the pitch to put it up in the peak or something like that.
Right.
We'll-
That's all I'm saying. get it up.
Yeah, we can verify that. But I think worst case, I mean, if we can pull it down lower than the 50,000, great.
Right,
And I think 50,000, as James put, is, worst
Right.
case.
right. And even if we could access it from the outside. I mean, I'm the only guy who needs to get in there. In a sense. We don't need to make it compliant for, safety inside for the people. If we can access it from the outside.
Yeah, can you put a steel perch on the outside?
That's what I'm getting at, yeah, exactly.
You still need to be able to access it though.
Yeah, ladder, up in,
Right.
open the door and walk in on it.
I mean, I don't know if the exterior stuff is the same as for interior as far as providing a workspace and all that, and it still being building code. I'll have to talk to my architects and stuff. about
Yeah,
that.
I'm just talking an option, something.
So, and I mean, there's a lot of good options.
Something, I don't know,
To
make
peek down and
everybody
try to
happy.
like pinch those numbers
Yeah, I
down
know,
and see.
I get it, I'm just throwing out something so they both.
Yeah.
Happiness.
I don't have the specific language about the public safety and nuisances, but it's described in a document that has been circulated to all the members previously. But the state, people have explained that we could force this project and get variances and build it. However, once we get our visit from FEMA to inspect everything, we'll be forced to fix things to compliance. And if we've done it and we're forced to fix it, we don't have the DRI money left over to do it. And, it costs a lot of money to demolish what we can't, if we can't afford to have it to fix it. So we don't have the money to fix it, we don't have the money to demolish it. We need to make sure our projects are to regulation and safe and just build it right. And I don't see us doing that by this November 11th timeline you have to talk with your builder. I think we need to really explore these options to find out what our best, what the true costs are gonna be, what the laws are.
She means March 11th.
March 11th.
That's okay.
Is option 3 doing it right?
Option 3 is asking for variances.
Yeah, no matter what, even if you're wet flood proofing and raising the electric, you still have to apply for a variance.
That's 3 or 4.
If option 3 is doing it right, I say we do it that way and do it as cheap as we can do it.
I think
Even though
you could
it's
try,
fiscally really
could-
stupid.
try option 5 and wet proofing.
Option
Option
5
5
is to
is
use the
nothing,
pool.
or is just leave it.
Option 5 is to
Option 5
use
is
the
to,
pool.
Option
to-
5
Yeah,
is,
it's to look at the pool.
is to look at the pool and possibly wet proof that.
But again,
Then we'll
that's an
get
entire
more
can of
money on
worms.
Yeah.
So we're thinking of a combination of 3 and 4?
I'm thinking 3, but as cheap as we can do it, hopefully less than 50 grand, save us some contingency.
3 and 4 are basically the same with whether or not we're going to put the electric up above BFE or whether we're not. They're the same other than that, pretty much.
It just continues to put money at something that won't ultimately get.
Well, but 4 does.
So what's our option if we don't do one of those two?
Look at moving the money into something else. What we said.
Or you mean not doing the bathroom?
Having no bathroom.
Yeah, having no bathroom or
But again,
looking at the pool bathrooms.
There is a public health concern for having a bathroom somewhere at the park. There needs to be facilities there for events or what have you. That is a public health concern, not having facilities when you've got 1,000 people.
There's a lot more acreage to explore. It doesn't have to be
Yeah, but
in
none of
this
it's any
one
higher.
spot
But none of
that
it's any
is
higher.
already identified, very low and it's too low for the BFE.
It's all the same question.
Oddly enough, that little hump that it's on is actually one of the higher spots in the park.
I know.
What about the bathrooms at the fairground?
Oh, we do have bathrooms under the
Can we improve
grandstand.
upon those
but
and
that's-
not
I mean, there's
tear anything apart? Because improve upon it?
The pros and cons to not
Yeah, there are benefits
deciding
there.
tonight. I
Yeah,
mean,
so if you
more
improve upon
information
it,
and
you're
more
not making
options
another
always
structure
makes
that
you
you have
better
to
about
meet
making
the
a
floodplain.
decision.
Yeah, because you haven't,
You haven't
But
destroyed it.
time,
down and-
time is a thing, right? I mean, even right now, we're pushing our luck. I mean, we really don't wanna have to get an extension on this, but, to be honest with you, Julie's been really great about this. You guys aren't the only DRI people struggling with, very similar issues with this. I think that they would, give you an extension and that could go. But I don't want you to kick the can down the road just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, can we carry this on in our special meeting next week, to go on and on about it here?
We can talk to the contractor and let him know the intent is to hopefully finalize the decision on Monday. And,
Yeah,
yeah, an hour.
because I don't think we're gonna,
yeah, I don't think a week's gonna make or break. I know they've been held up thus far, but we can talk to them. As long as they know an end is in sight or a decision is to be made, and they can take appropriate action after that, I think that would be acceptable.
What would be, so we have option one, which is do nothing and stick porta potties on the pad. There's still a cost to us to that, because there's a big pile of block over there.
Well, we could look at potentially some repurposing of that, whether or not it's used elsewhere or it's, as Charles mentioned, you have a pad, use it for whatever porta potties, could throw out, you could put a pavilion there. You could use the blocking for a pavilion or some other type of gathering place or enclosure. It doesn't necessarily have to have displaced flood water or have electric or bathroom facilities, but there could be some other options.
I just know we've already spent money on materials that are sitting over there in a big pile.
I mean, it would be a deviation from, your original prioritization of the DRI.
Yeah, and it would, honestly, it would take away from, the functionality that even previously was there, right? We demolished the bathroom. Right. If we could have put new toilets in or something.
yeah.
There were some bigger
Less than
problems.
50%.
I mean, we did review trying to keep the bathroom there and,
Right.
reuse it, and it just, for the money, it didn't seem feasible.
No.
Well, but it was still bad.
Yeah.
Just so walls.
Yeah,
but Yeah.
sewer was no good. Yeah.
Well, I concur with Fred, we can't have a regular hot water heater in there running 24/7. It's gotta be
That's
on.
mind of our business now.
Yeah, that's my.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
and
That's a big
I
expense.
I don't wanna speak out of turn, but I'm pretty sure we already had these conversations and that's accommodated in the drawings. Like I said,
We did,
yeah.
we did talk about it.
I know our mechanical guys have been in contact with, Fred and the mayor, just discussing some of those fixtures and whatnot.
Rusty?
So, on the advice of my constituents, let's try to talk New York State into letting us move the money. Let's talk New York State into letting us put whatever more money we need into that bathroom. Let's talk New York State into letting us keep the slab, which David and I think is fine at the skateboard park, and building some stuff, mogul stuff on top of that skateboard park for $200,000. Let's talk taking all that money and doing that bathroom and contingencying other things. And maybe, doesn't have to be, and maybe putting up an elevator in the back of the fire department, a fire station, which is something we need so we can just do something else with that building. Let's talk New York State into let us doing a bunch of this stuff. And I know the people that want that skateboard park ain't gonna like this, but let's talk New York State into letting us do a little bit more moving. That's just another thought, which is what we can talk about at another workshop meeting.
Well, I will say from being in the meetings with the state every week.
Yep.
They are very interested in Marvin Park and making this our transformational project and seeing it done. They like parks, they like that kind of stuff.
So much
More
for-
than.
So much for my
building that-
idea.
More than a building that we didn't maintain that's falling down because it's historic. For poor maintenance. They would like a nice fancy park better than that.
Can't sacrifice that skate park for the kids. Need it.
They wanted us to put a fence on the front of it that was 4 times more expensive because it looked fancy. And James and I talked Julie Sweet out of making them make us do that.
$400, $400,000 fence.
Yes. They
Uh,
wanted pickets and
It looked like
planks.
nice though.
It would have looked really fancy for $500,000.
So let's do this next Monday.
And we should table it for now.
Didn't I suggest that like a?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Do you want to do it at 7 o'clock, or do you want to start earlier, knowing the robustness of the conversation?
Started earlier.
Be fine.
I can make it 6.
6 is fine.
Everybody else?
We just have to know what to put in the notice, so whatever you guys want.
What do you want to do, board?
6 is good by me. We're about 6.
6 o'clock on the 11th.
Do we want a pizza?
Sure, we can do that. We can do that.
We ordered donuts.
Hey, donut people here.
Monday, they're not.
That's why you don't.
What else we got, James?
And Rusty, forgive me, I didn't mean to be rude. I'm just so frustrated about this whole process.
It's highly frustrating. It's very frustrating.
The only other thing that I have on the agenda specifically is, the art commission.
Oh, yeah.
So we've addressed this a few times with the art being moved from North Avenue to along one of the water. The focus of the art, the intent of it, the interested parties is all different than what it was before. So we really need to try to come up with a way to get people together who are interested in this. Ideally, it would be led by 1 or 2 board members, bringing in people who are interested parties so that we can decide on the same things that we decided before, you know, how many pieces, where, how we're gonna reach out for the money, how we're gonna do the proposals, and, you know, bringing that to the board to get it approved, or someone to really, you know, do the legwork and be invested in this. I'm sure that, and I wanna kick myself because I can't remember her name, that even though we
Christine,
talked, yeah, Christina.
Arts Council.
Yeah, it was just, I'm sure she would be invested in this, as well. I don't think you guys want me picking out your art.
Or me.
We're not gonna decide that right this minute either, but we'll get to that.
Well, but we need somebody who's gonna lead that effort, right? Because that clock is ticking. Right, that's a
Yeah, that's a
$140,000.
long lead time, is the part on that. I think that's one of those things that's very easily extended, assuming that you had the money essentially spent by selecting the artist, doing the proposals. If it wasn't built, you know, that's not necessarily as much of an issue. But our information that we gathered last time was that process of getting those bids out, getting people to be interested and finalizing it is a very long process, like potentially 6 months.
Can a porta potty be considered as a art?
Okay.
You're paying it.
You put graffiti on.
Well, I was gonna say, with a mural.
Yeah. But no, we need people that want to take that up and lead it because the clock's ticking. And if we don't get an extension, our DRI money is good until December 31st, 2024.
And do recall, like whoever's helping with that art committee, you're not making all the decisions or doing the work, just helping me essentially decide who in your community is gonna be involved in this, gonna, you know, help us with the decisions to then bring to the board to approve. They're not making the decisions, they're not the final word, but they're gonna do a lot of the legwork and hopefully they'll have similar visions to you being community members as well.
Mike, let's sniff at that this week and do that Monday too.
That's fine.
Is that all right with you?
Yeah. So
I mean,
think
just,
about
we're
that.
not prepared for that right now. Oh, yeah, it's Margie, we're not ready for that.
So everybody think about that. We need a committee on Monday. For art.
Okay. So if
Thanks for
you
all your hard
guys.
work, James.
I'm sorry.
Said thanks for all your hard work.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate that.
Were you reaching to get your parking pass stamp? Were you reaching to get your parking pass stamp?
No, I was looking, I don't know what I did with my glasses.
But don't forget your thing too in the computer.
I'll just submission it. But yeah, if you guys don't have any more
We'll be
questions,
there for
we'll,
Monday.
yeah, we'll head out. I'll keep it set and, I'll try to get you guys some more sets of plans so you guys can have them here and you can pick them up as you're at your
Number
leisure.
two.
Does our lawyer have anything to add to that?
That wasn't really a legal discussion. The one thing that popped into my mind, I didn't say anything because again, it's not a legal opinion, but depending on who you have doing events at the park, you could work with them individually for those events to arrange for portable restrooms for those.
For each, yeah.
And it could be,
There you
it could be a shared.
I'm glad
Oh,
I
the
asked.
fair committee already does that, don't they, for the fair?
Yeah, the fair does some of that for the
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because I know, I live in Vestal and we have a park and there's a bathroom there, but it's always locked unless there's something going on.
Like with just,
So-
with graffiti and destruction,
Yeah,
that's not the worst
exactly.
idea.
No, exactly. So if they have a large cross-country meet, they do it there. So they'll go up and they'll unlock it for that. But if you were just at the park using it for whatever reason, there's playgrounds there and all kinds of stuff, pavilions. You need to arrange ahead of time to have that bathroom. It's not a public bathroom 24/7, 365 days a year. So I guess I would keep that in mind as well as far as, the overall bathroom project is. When's it actually going to be used and have to be used by a large assembly?
Part of the deal.
Yes.
Is this advice from somebody from a place that has two police chiefs?
It is,
You know,
as of this week, I think.
that's,
Onward.
I'm not gonna say anything on the record on that.
That's a good plan.
Mayor Mike, can I leave these?
Sure.
These are just the same plans, the parking stuff, the electrical plans, all the different things. That way you guys at least have a record set here. I'm pretty sure we shipped them out.
I'll add them to my pile on my table.
You know something, Mike? I would appreciate it if you'd leave them in the conference room if there's a place in here because people
Yeah.
sometimes want, you're not here and your office is locked and people can't access them. So if they're in the conference room, we could see them if somebody wants to. Can I make one more quick recommendation to the board? What we do is we said, oh yeah, we're gonna look at it and we're gonna come. And if we don't do anything between now and next Monday, we won't be much farther ahead than we are now. So we have a lot of responsibility in the things that don't get done here. And so we need to do things, whatever we need to be doing, talking, researching, talking to people, talking to each other before Monday. So we have some place where we're going.
You guys all have my business cards. I'll give them out. So does anybody need an extra one? I feel like there's new faces since I started 2 years ago.
Well,
No new faces yet.
I would take another one, I don't know what I do with mine, and the lady behind you there would probably like one as well. She's our future board member.
Anything more from you, Tim?
Thanks.
No, I'm all set. We'll see you Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Now I gotta go get pizza.
Charles.
Next week, we'll get you pizza. There you go.
Thank you guys. Have a good
Thanks,
one.
guys.
Thanks.
You too.
Appreciate you coming.
All right, so let's get our department heads out here. Wally?
Remind me to take you up by the offer.
I'll leave it.
We told you.
Yeah, sorry. So I'll make it quick. We had an insurance meeting with the insurance agent, verifying the policy. The gas meter at the station hasn't been read in eons, so went and worked with NICEAG and Kim to get that taken care of. And 32 is out of service, 33 just came back, and 2 ambulances in service, and the buggy is in service. So lots of normal work that goes on, that's just kind of above and beyond. What's what?
Anybody have anything for EMS?
Not important, but the gas meter is, I'm just saying, we can read that and call that in, or if
Yeah.
not you, I don't have to, but somebody could.
Yeah, Kim doesn't have internet access for that. They've been estimating 11 turns for the last 3 months, so we're 2,900 turns behind.
Whoops.
I talked to Freddie about that. There's an 800 number, somebody can do it. They just want to-
Yeah, I talked
I'll
to,
do it.
I talked to my state person that I know,
Yeah.
and I was directed to use this certain thing, so it's been all emailed to my state.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else, anything else for EMS? As usual, thanks for doing what you're doing. Freddie?
I'm short and sweet. Couple things that we did this week, we cleaned up the Bay Street underpass, that's ongoing with the people we have in the village now.
Are there some living there?
Yeah, there was. A bunch of them closed. Anyway, we've been repairing the broken lines that we've had in Marvin Park for our water line, water being a little higher, so we found a couple broken spots that we fixed. Hydrants, we had taken out some hydrants that I've not been using, and the bottom dried out, so they started leaking, so I eliminated them and kept the ones that we used for the fair. So we got rid of 5, 6 roughly and fixed a couple lines. So we got that all done. Met with the Army Corps of Engineers last week for Erie Street for the mapping of our stormwater. Yeah. We've been cleaning drains, and then the planning zone meeting scheduling and OHPC meeting scheduling has been going on. That's pretty much it, other than the everyday basic stuff.
Anybody have anything for DPW?
Fred, I'd like to, request that we open up, Evergreen, the week before Easter.
When's
Because
Easter?
that church is always has sunrise service up there.
Yes, and it is. I talk with him every year, and it's definitely opened up before him, as long as the weather permitting.
Yeah,
That people
exactly.
can get up
Weather
there.
permitting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's always
because
open.
I mean, people like to get up there and decorate graves
Yeah.
before Easter.
I just want to make sure that the weather permitting, because I don't want anything to happen up there.
Understand? Yes, I mean,
Plus March 31st.
yeah, if we open it up.
We usually open it up first
And
week of
it
April,
snows the
depending
next
on the
day,
weather.
and it's gotta get closed, that's all.
If I could add something out of that, we've been talking with the committee and the Friends of Evergreen. Now I have a key to the gate. We want to get up there and do an inspection to see what we're looking at this season.
I have no problem with that, as long as the weather's permitting.
Yeah, that way
I
I
just
can,
don't want to take the chance of the village, some older fellas go up in there and something
Yeah.
happens.
well, and I can report it to Fred if we find, and so it'll be a weekend, probably within the next couple of weeks. Or a Saturday, a weekday, I mean.
The ground is really soft and wet. I don't know, like, if
Well, then, here pretty soon, probably in another couple of weeks, we'll be having Tony up there, and I don't want anybody up there.
Yeah.
At that time.
Well, we could do it before that. I just, my concern again is the trees, what we have good windstorms.
That's why I'm saying.
Just want to
that's
get
why I
an
want Tony
idea of
there
what
first.
we're gonna be facing this season.
Right.
So,
The guys are gonna be going, there are guys who've been going up there periodically when I have free time, cleaning up enough of up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't,
Oh,
here we go again, just because it's nice now, it doesn't mean it's gonna be nice next week.
That's right.
So, I mean, sometimes we need to pump the brakes here because
Yeah.
stuff could happen.
yep.
I mean, if people wanna walk up there, I can't stop them for that. But to drive vehicles up there on them hills and if something happens.
Oh, I wouldn't go up there when if
You
it's
wouldn't,
dirty,
but there's other
no,
people that
but
would.
if it's dirty, well, we'll keep the gate closed. My thought is, open the gate, lock the gate behind us while we go up through that way, we not.
If you have a key, you can just lock it when you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Gang, anybody that wants to go to the cemetery has to go see him and get his permission.
Until we open
We
it
got
up.
it.
Done.
I'm just letting them know.
I know.
But you're fine, as long as,
We're
probably
going
give you
too
an
far.
extra key, take it for the weekend. Just make sure you lock it.
Yep.
So nobody gets out of there.
Yeah, right.
Just have it here, it'll have two
I could
CDs,
go,
don't
I
stop
could
it.
go a long ways on that one, you know that.
Anything else, DPW?
Well, didn't you want to say something about the cabinets?
Yeah, I mean, I can do that. There's been an agreement, we wrote up a letter. The museum has 2 exhibit cases that have been in the, I call it the pit. If you guys have been around behind the museum, there's an issue. We've had 2 exhibit cases that are beveled, they're 4 doors each, they're glass. Peter Gordon had asked the museum if we would be interested in putting those in the chapel. We have artifacts and stuff over the years that we found up doing cleaning and stuff that we would like to put on exhibit, we could put in these cases. They would go in the chapel, the museum would have ownership of them, but we're not using them, and they've been sitting outside for 4.5 years. They've been covered, but they've still been sitting outside. I wrote up a letter, I came in the other day, and Rod and I talked about it. Not having an issue with moving those in there. At some point, we want to put some stuff on the walls to kind of, we're still debating about what we want to use it for. I mean, that's gonna be back and forth with you guys, whatever you want to do with that chapel. Income, earn some money. Somebody suggested weddings. I don't know about having weddings in some place where they, I don't know, we kind of but as far as like a small museum about the history of Evergreen. So that was, we got those cases, we can move them in there. I've got keys to it, Peter's got keys to it, he would be doing the moving.
We could just like formally say that, to put it on the record that we're going to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move that we authorize John Rickliff to work with Peter Gordon and the museum to move the glass cases to the mortuary chapel for storage and future presentation.
I'll second that.
Any questions, discussion?
Yep, but I'll make it quick.
Yeah.
That place has written on the front in a giant neon sign, come break into me, come in here sometime, and they will. They will do it. I wouldn't put anything in there of any value.
Oh, no, these are, we found up in the cemetery. There's old pieces of iron, really.
Just tell me that's not something that
These
we're
cases-
concerned about.
These cases are not.
Cases aren't valuable.
No.
That's all I'm concerned about, because sooner or later, someone's going in there. Thanks, Ray.
No. There's gonna be some talk about, Fred and I talked briefly, I'll talk with Lisa more when I see him again, about new doors for the front. We have a couple ideas that use doors that, so I'll talk with him about that, and then he can pass the information. Just some other ideas for it.
That's all my discussion.
Yeah, no, nothing, there won't be anything valuable. There won't be anything like collections from the museum in there.
Right, yeah.
Nothing like that, so, but.
Okay. So we got our motion. Shall we vote?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Fran?
Yes.
Ed? Yes. Charles?
Yes.
And yes.
All right, I'm going home. I don't know what you guys.
Perfect.
Smart move.
I'm not sitting here till 11:30. I don't want to do this.
Hopefully the rest is good. Do we have anything from the fire department? I see some.
Yeah, I have, 2 membership applications. Should I do both names together or do them separate or what? Separate, okay. First one I have is Ethan, Iannello, I think that's how you pronounce that.
That's about right.
Iannello.
Say that one more time.
IAMN.
And then.
IELLO. First name Ethan.
You should have a copy.
Yeah, there should be a copy.
I can't read it.
Oh, see, so we were bouncing off each other here. Ethan is a student. He wants to join Company 1. So I make a motion that we accept this new member application because we need membership.
Second that. Okay, any discussion on Ethan?
And this will be a junior firefighter is what we call that.
Yeah.
He's 17 years old.
Yeah, he's only 17.
Yeah, all right, he's in the junior fire
Yep.
section.
Will do.
Just
Need as many of them as we can get. Rusty,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Fran,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
and yes.
And the second membership application is Kevin Haynes. That's Haines. He wants to join company two. Right now, he's a software engineer. Might come in handy.
I'll second that.
Any discussion about him? Rusty,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Fran,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes. And that's all I have to say about that.
anything from police department?
Probably next meeting, the police chief will be asking us to consider, two new hires. We have one part-time and he may be prepared for full-time and another one, which we've already kind of let you know that they're coming.
Yeah, well, ask me about that later.
Is that the one we
Yeah.
interviewed already?
I'll talk to you about, yes, the one, I'll talk to you about it later.
Okay. Sewer, Dirk didn't have,
Dirk couldn't make it tonight.
He's not feeling well.
Not feeling well. But I'll speak for him. The month of January, haulers brought in a total of 382,000 gallons of brown oil, totaling is $21,000. In February, at 358,000 gallons, totaling 20,000. They did have an emergency re-repair lateral at 535 East Main Street. Apparently, the previous contractor did a not so satisfying job. And they're in the process of lining up 2 other repairs in the spring. Their department's helping out with Hyde Park field installations of extra bathrooms and advising for an additional sewer line and the need to dig up and raise the manhole covers for installation. Kevin Millard is bringing a small group of interested parties, if anybody's interested in touring the sewer plant.
Beautiful place.
March 14th.
Field trips, anybody? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there.
Just to bring awareness to the plant operations. And finally, the yearly inspection for the DEC was satisfactory.
Yeah, it is actually a high-tech sewer plant, as far as sewer plants goes. There's only 2 or 3 of our type in New York State.
Yeah.
So, and we just completed a $15 million upgrade there. So it is, as far as sewer plants goes, it's a pretty big deal.
Mr. Mayor.
Number one and a number two business.
Mr. Mayor, if I might. Many times we may or may not have nice things or good things, bad things to say about previous administrations, et cetera, but they made a good choice when they picked of the options they had, and they didn't want to spend the money. They picked the top option for us for the sewer plant. Ed there knows about it. They picked the top option for that because
Voted for that.
down the line, yeah. So, yeah, just want people to understand, they put that together.
It was a nice facility.
And it was a good idea to not pick an in-between one, to pick.
That was a tough decision too.
It was a pile of dough.
A lot of money.
Tomorrow, Dirk and I are doing the phone call for the energy assessment. So we're gonna get this energy audit of the start process of getting an energy audit for the site and what usage it has and what possibilities there are for solar. It's that process of nominating a site, we get points to explore our options. So that's starting tomorrow for a visit.
Cool.
And we had passed that before to have the,
Right.
to have the energy audit. We did that last meeting before.
There's plenty of energy over there, that's for sure.
Well, it uses up our energy. It's our
Right.
biggest user
It is.
in our village, so.
All right. Anything from the clerk's office? Sounds good to me.
Chucky, we got that thing with the map.
Yeah, so our next thing is a
Oh, I'm sorry,
zoning
sorry.
map corrections. Did everybody get the map?
I will say you have to deep out.
What did you say about the absentee ballots? They've gone out?
They're gone out.
Okay. I don't have paperwork for it, but I have it.
So our lawyers here to help us with
Is
this.
there anything? I have it somewhere.
I'm questioning why there's big chunks of land that are zoned for business and they're not business like cemetery. And there's that little pie-shaped segment there that's a different color even. That's part of the cemetery now. Has been for a long time.
That was the part we bought on top.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's part of the cemetery and,
Yeah.
and it goes all the way up to Dean Street. I mean, there's a residential section there, apartment buildings. And that's zone business.
And you're referring to the current 2024 map?
Yeah, yeah. And there's also on 3896, whatever you want to call it there. I realize the gas station, that's business. But then where the Hartmans live, their property shows also as business. That's definitely residential.
Well, so these maps dictate the way that the land has been zoned through local laws. They don't change anything, and they don't necessarily mean that that's what it should be zoned. That's just how laws are right now.
Right, yeah, I think it was, this came about because somebody was looking at the 2022 map and saw a couple parcels that they knew were incorrect. And so my understanding is the 2024 map we have in front of us is the correct map based on the code and the local laws that have been passed to date. So you're talking about a different thing, the fact that there are parcels that are either their use doesn't match their zoning or their zoning isn't matching their use, whether they're grandfathered or.
I mean, the cemetery is actually a park, it's not.
Right.
Never have any business up
It is a park, but it is not zoned a park.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, so, yeah, what Mark is saying is that
So
the map is correct. If we want to change something because we think it's something we want different, then that's what we do, but it is
right.
substantially correct unless someone has information that it's not.
Right, so the business for tonight would be to approve the 2024 map as the current Village of Owego zoning map. If we want to look at the way certain parcels are zoned, then that's a whole other
We can change it.
process, and that's requires
Okay.
local laws.
Do we have a resolution like that? We don't have a resolution, do we?
Not something prepared as
Not prepared.
language.
Because somewhere we were going to, I didn't interrupt, are you?
No,
Somewhere we were going to make maybe in a resolution or someplace that the official zoning of the Village of Owego is what the laws that we have passed say. So if there's a map that is, if there's a map that is inaccurate, that is not the definitive.
Yeah.
It says it right on the bottom of that map. This map is only a depiction. The Code of Ordinances of the Village of Owego is the defining authority. So it says it right on the map.
We added it to the map.
No, that's a good thing to put right on the bottom.
Yeah.
I move that we officially accept this new and designate the new Village of Owego zoning map of 2024.
I'll second that.
I would just say as the official map as it is in current compliance with village code and all local laws passed today.
As it is current and to all local laws passed to date. If you're writing that down, Rod.
We'll get it from the video.
He's getting the gist.
Just look at something here. Also, just give me a minute. Did somebody second?
Yes.
I did.
On the back, it is a policy, which I suppose could be done separately, that says that if the Tioga County wants to change our thing, they need to talk to us first before they start making maps in our name that we don't approve. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
And I also recommend you send a copy of the 2024 map and the resolution to Tioga County.
Yeah. So we're gonna do the map first and then we'll talk or do the resolution. Although Mike, you've already signed the resolution.
Well, the letter anyway.
No letter, okay. So I did have one quick thing. Rodney and I talked about this a little bit in Cindy's letter here. She says that she is unsure of why or how the cemetery was changed from business to R4. But she didn't know, that it shouldn't or should be, or she wasn't, I don't know if she was certain about that. She says, well, if you read the thing in the front, it tells what she was thinking. I wasn't sure whether she knows that that's it, or we know that that's it, or her research showed that it wasn't.
Looks like Nate has something.
Did Nate say something there about that?
No, this is from Cindy. She just says it's for the cemetery area, and not sure how, why it was changed to R4, just having one parcel zoned R4 would also out of that business in R2, spot zoning is not allowed. To my understanding is that is also changed on the 2024 map.
The 2024 map, she's not gonna like it, but I don't know what we're gonna do, but on the 2024 map, we've changed that cemetery from R4, and which, once again, we don't know. It didn't, I don't wanna argue with her or anything, it didn't sound like she was sure which thing it was.
Nate and I called her, and she indicated to us that this is correct.
So the R4 is incorrect and that the business is correct.
Yes.
Then, since we don't know it either way, and since we're making this map,
And
no, I'm just saying.
She had no law or code to suggest.
That it was one or the other.
No, that it should not be what's on the 2024 map.
I assume there's law or code to back up that it should be.
Okay.
The county
What?
did that 234 review process. They do the special use
230, the
reviews,
239,
right?
the 239, right?
So a single property can ask for a special use permit just while they own that property to do certain things, right? And so when the county was filing them, they didn't know how to update their map, so they just were spot changing these properties on their map.
Right.
And then, but they don't have the official map. They were just working off this other map, and they don't know when somebody sells a property and then that special permit is gone, right? And they weren't updating their maps like we are. And so,
The special use permit has nothing to do with the zoning map.
well, it can change the.
No, it
can
allows
allow a special
somebody to
use
do
in the
something. It
zone.
doesn't change the zone.
It got in front of county planning.
Yep.
So they, based off of that application, went ahead and changed the version of the map they have up there.
That's what they did on the R4.
Yeah.
Not the R4 for the cemetery, the R4 on Main Street. They changed it because they did in anticipation, blah, blah, blah. So we get that. That's not a dispute. We're changing that.
Right.
Out of that. We're just talking about the cemetery and what was it? What was it? So was it this? Was it that? We don't know any of that, but I'm okay with approving this map because it's not definitive again. If we change that back to business, it doesn't mean it's business. It means if somebody wants to make a fuss, we're gonna have to look up the laws and codes and find it.
If you find legal support for it being something else,
Yeah.
we can come back here and do this again and correct it.
Am I taking too much time? It's the deal. Okay. You understand what I'm talking about on that? Okay.
Are we good with the map? Okay, let's vote on the map. Russ?
Can't abstain, can I? Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Charles? Yes. And yes. Okay. Payment of bills. Anybody like to pay the bill? Just pay them.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any questions on the bills?
Mike, as usual, you've done your due diligence. You're good with them?
Russ?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And yes. Minutes. Laura?
I just briefly scanned through them and I didn't really look hard because I didn't have
Too late.
a lot of time, so.
Too late.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to laugh?
you didn't get new chairs when you got a new building? These
Good
are
question.
really uncomfortable.
We're gonna get new ones, but you're not.
Original Stackmore chairs.
Charles, did you try that new chair?
You like it?
I wanted to take it for a test ride today.
I wouldn't let him try it.
We're all gonna get it, right?
You're all gonna
Oops.
you're all gonna get yours one at a time.
One at a time. Mayor first, right?
No, Charles.
Oh,
I let Charles, you ordered one, Charles, try it out.
And you don't get to read those minutes right now while we're in the middle of approving the minutes. You gotta have that ready before you get here.
I did already read them, but I didn't like pick them apart.
well, there's one change, that, I reported last time about the Action Club. That's for adults, 18 and over.
Right, that are
You had, it was children?
disabled. Oh, okay. 18 and over?
Yeah, 18 and over for,
Is that from a minute we already did approve and you just wanna?
No, it's in these minutes. All right, I'll take care of it.
yeah. Near the end.
Move we, sorry, Laura, move we, approve the minutes, with corrections from Fran and one word of correction or something that I gave Rodney inconsequential.
Sir?
I'll second it.
Well then,
So if she finds something later, we can always amend that, right?
right.
No, it's fine.
Okay,
I'm fine.
yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
I'll abstain.
Charles?
Yes.
And yes. Okay. Trustee reports.
Mike, can we do something before that?
Sure.
Want to approve the letter to the county?
Oh, yeah, sure.
What is that, right? Whatever we call that. Move that we approve the letter on the back of the, whatever we call this. Whatever that is. Letter to the county.
Map,
From, the what?
map letter.
The map letter and that, and maybe in that same motion that we send the map and the map letter to the county.
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion about the letter or sending it over? Okay. Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And
Thank you,
yes.
Mike.
Trustee reports. Let's see, which other table you want to start with? Start with Fran.
Okay, well, with the cemetery, we had a good meeting this last week. And, we covered a lot of things as John already mentioned some. But we talked about, use for that mortuary chapel. Now, it really won't be usable until, the doors are replaced and others, or such stuff. So we talked about possible fees, but I mean, that's another agenda item of ours. We need to get into fees. But for right now, the Friends of Owego Evergreen would like to ask permission to use that chapel in any way they need to for purposes of, education for the cemetery and so on. And they're not gonna have a yard sale there or anything like that. Just mundane use. There's not any problem with that.
The only problem is that's pretty open-ended, that they can use it any way they want. That's just not a generally great way to make a policy. I don't know what a better way is, but I told you, I'm worried about vandalism and graffiti, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm worried about, it's our property, and we are responsible, insurance, liability, things, so
Okay, yeah.
I'm just,
Well,
that's just.
Yeah, the Friends of Evergreen, they are a 501c3, and they have all their own liability insurance. So any place, they would use either up in the cemetery or at the chapel, whatever, be covered by their insurance.
How about uses in furtherance of the Friends of the Evergreen Cemetery's mission to support the cemetery?
Right, that's good. I'll second that. I mean, number of things they said was, for book signings, I mean, we've got several books about the cemetery. For walking tours, start and end point, historical lectures and presentations. Nothing, anything that was to the public, they would come back and get approval. Or it's just for mundane use.
It's fine, but that's what I was asking about. Why we just blanket anything you want, everything, and now you've given them some restrictions a little bit. If they want to do some of these things, they'll come back for approval. Just wanted to get it a little tighter, that's all.
I understand.
I don't know what it is now, but
Somebody second.
do we know what it is now?
Clear enough, not knowing what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ed made the proposition, I second.
And what is it?
To allow the Friends of Evergreen to use the mortuary chapel for those specific things.
No, like normally if the hose company is gonna like have the sub car or something, we just like put out an announcement and say it's okay. Would it be all right if you just, announce each event and we say, yeah, like we're having an event over there held by the Evergreen? That we like don't do a blanket approval, but we just go through the same process that we follow for everybody using our village property.
Yeah, well, if there was an event other than their, doing work in there, they would have to let DPW know, so they get it on the calendar.
I would almost think it's akin to, so EMS carries out their mission. They're also a separate entity utilizing the village's property, right?
Well, they're an official department of us.
Yeah.
Friends of the Evergreen is
The Friends of
completely-
Evergreen.
Friends of Evergreen is the hose company. They're a separate entity.
That's right, exactly.
When the hose company wants something, they come and ask us each time. We're just talking about whether we give it a blanket or whether maybe Laura's suggesting each time they ask, and it's a pain in the butt to ask each time. I don't know.
Okay, well, the purpose of the Friends of Evergreen is dedicated to the education about and restoration of the Owego Historic Evergreen Cemetery, the municipal property of the village of Owego. That's their mission. They help find grants to use for the cemetery and.
This wasn't a discussion about them being bad or good or what they do. It was just a matter of whether or not a blanket authority or come each time and ask for permission because they're not an official part of the village. That's all. I think that's the only thing we're talking about. I don't, just pick one, blanket or ask each time.
Well, what we're asking is for blanket approval for them to use the building. Like I said, if it's something that involves the public, they would make sure it's on the DPW calendar.
We don't have blanket approval arrangements with other people. The Little League has an arrangement with us for use.
I would say just generally with village-owned property, it would make sense that the village be aware of each of these events and have the right.
Yeah, exactly.
Not be aware, but be asked or
Well, that's why I said
approve each one.
Be aware and then have the right to approve or not approve.
Yeah. And that's generally what you would do.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, all it is a tiny bit, I don't see any problem at all, the village board saying that they could use it, just each time you gotta tell them within 2 weeks of, or whatever the next board meeting is, you gotta say, hey, we wanna use it. Okay?
They've always been good about planning ahead.
Yeah.
They planned real well, I don't see any problem with it using it, just, as Mark's saying, just the blanket seems a little, something.
Okay, so what did you put down there, Rob?
I don't know. Do it in the videotape.
I would put nothing down. Just if they want to use it, they'll come. Submit a list of what they want to use.
Paragraphs, I'll have to figure out what.
Well, there's nothing to vote on then, if we're just
Right.
saying that they've got to
We'll send in a list of what they want to use it for, then we'll go.
With dates.
You just requested a blanket use for them and they use it for education. They use it for, when they have grants, they have tours, they, whatever, but at the moment, it's going nowhere. It's got a first and a second, but we're just gonna, what are we doing?
Okay.
Well, if you don't want to try and vote that in for blanket use, then withdraw it. If you do
Yeah,
want to,
we're
if you
not
just
gonna
want
do
to.
it for blanket use, yeah, we'll withdraw.
So the feeling of the board is that we're more than prepared to let them have this most of the time and use it most of the time, almost,
Yeah,
but
Okay.
it's not going to be a blanket permission.
okay, gotcha. Thank you, that's all.
Ed?
It's not-
I don't have anything.
Charles?
Rotary Club member had approached me and asked about the flags that were made for the fire department. I guess these are some kind of decorative flags and they were actually used for on the holidays, displayed on the holidays. Have you heard about them? Well, I was approached. I found out through fire board secretary that they do use the flags. I just wanted to mention that because I think that was one of the items on our honeydew list.
Okay.
So
They already have the
they
flags?
have the flags.
They've been put up
They've
before?
been put up before during like 4th of July.
And you don't know what the flag, are the flags with pictures of war heroes or
I
something?
think that's what it is, veterans.
But we don't know for sure what they are.
Yeah, it eludes me at this moment, but I just wanted to mention that those flags, there was only one set of flags that were made, requested by the Rotary Club. I was asked if they had them, and yes, they do have them. The fire department does have them, and they have been in use.
The Rotary wants to know if the fire department has
Yeah,
them in
because
their
I think they
possession?
asked, yes, they
Is it
asked,
paid for?
yeah, they paid for them, they asked for them to be made, or whatever, so they want to know if they were being used. And the answer is yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard about these, but okay.
Yeah, I meant to actually tell you about it. I'm also in negotiations with the artist who hopefully will be doing the mural on the fire station. Just setting up a meeting for this coming Wednesday at the fire board meeting. So if there's anybody that has any questions, we already ascertained where the funds are going to come from and how they're going to be done. And it's not going to impact the taxpayers or our budget or anything like that. So that's a plus. If you need any further information, just come see me.
We'll have to eventually give final approval.
Yeah.
To paint whatever.
Yeah.
So, let me just ask you, Charles, you talk about on the doors
The
or on the
doors
side?
are not going to be done. I believe that they were already allocated for painting over. They're white now. They're going to be done red.
Okay.
Somebody was already paid to do it. They just haven't done it yet, I guess, is weather permitting. They want to keep them like that so that when the people driving the trucks smash into the back or smash into the doors,
Yeah,
it doesn't mess up the artwork.
So you're gonna do it on the
we're
side?
gonna do it on the side, not the side where the steamer house is, because it wouldn't be in view. So the opposite side where the parking lot is, parking area. Let me try to come up with something like that. So that means that there's a smaller space, it would be a cheaper deal. Less money to come up with for fundraising. So I'm getting with that. I'm setting that up. That's in the works. Also, I believe that there is a webinar that Julie Ducci will be attending along with the code enforcement person, and it's free for him. Do you have anything to add to that, Julie? You still there? No. I received an email about it.
On the CRS.
Introduction to the community rating system.
Hopefully I'll be on it.
Okay, that's good. And last but not least, I attended the ribbon cutting of OBD, Owego Donuts and Beer Company. I got to meet the Lieutenant Governor and once again appeared on television. Just wanted to congratulate once again. I didn't congratulate you, I talked to my husband. Welcome the DRI program business owners. And it's a great asset and a great addition to our community. So we wish you much success. And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, thanks for filling in for me.
Yep.
Comment on, Brett, on Charles?
Yeah.
So he's going to the fire department, he's gonna see if they are interested in mural, and murals, if they're interested in various places, and if they are, what things they might like, he's gonna get all that information from them and bring that back to us.
Right, yeah.
So we can
Yeah,
have
we want them involved in
have
the
that
process.
information, yeah.
Yeah. What would be appropriate put on to display our pride in our fire department. But I believe we do need something to spark interest. Hopefully this will be a jumpstart for further membership. Fire department used to be really cool. Anybody see that? A nice mural on the fire department probably sparked the youth. That, wow, they cool. I remember back in the days, I wanted to ride on the fire truck. And hopefully that'll remedy that. I mean, if anybody's seen, what's the name of that movie? Little Shop of Horror, when they put that plant in the window and then all of a sudden people come and start buying flowers. Hopefully this will work like that.
The plant can eat them.
Get a mural on there and people will just sign up to be a volunteer fireman.
That's a good plan. We'll see. Good?
Yep.
Dave?
I have nothing this week.
Laura? Or Rusty? Whichever?
Nothing.
Oh,
Laura's last.
all right.
It's yours.
I gotta go.
We had a planning board meeting February 27th. We had a zoning board meeting February 28th. At the zoning board meeting, we didn't take an action. They'll have another meeting next month. So we needed more information to be able to try to process the variance. So we went through, looking all through the questions, and so now at this point, the applicant will have to fill out the seeker and provide some other information, and stuff will go to the county for the 239 review, and that'll provide some more paperwork, and then the zoning board will be able to commence and most likely will prove that they've already got set up to that point.
Okay.
Tomorrow, I'm doing this phone tour of the wastewater treatment plant. It's a part of NYSERDA's Build Ready program. So we have nominated the site, or we're nominating the site for an assessment to see about what its energy usage is, what our options are for solar and things to support that building. So that's tomorrow, 10 a.m. Thursday, 7 p.m., OHPC has their next meeting. That's here. Thursday, March 21st is the Intro to the Community Rating System webinar. I want to know if I can watch it for free through Mick. I don't want to pay $55 to do the seminar, but I would sit next to Mick while he's doing it for free. So I'd like to get in on that.
Well, that was my question, was because it said you had to be a member and then your code officer was free.
Your code enforcement
But I don't know
officer
for
gets it
members.
for free. The people who are in the state association members, they pay $15. The people who are not members would have to pay $55. But I'm not gonna try to get credit for it. I just want to watch it for information. So I want to see if I can just watch it along over shoulder. But
Maybe you could do it
maybe,
in here.
yeah, like in the building, yeah, in his office. Or maybe they said that we could sign up for, as a community, then we could all get the discount, and maybe we could all just watch it for the $15 or something. So if you want, maybe we,
So I think they said the membership was only like $100.
yeah.
That might be
it might be good for more of us to have this information. To, pay for that membership and to have it. So, yeah,
He had to get the line up.
right? Last meeting, we talked about, this hazard mitigation financing option. And so they are looking to set up a scheduled, a meeting to meet with us.
Yeah, Julie's doing that, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Julie will be in on it, so you responded, Ed, so you, me, the mayor and Rod and Nate, when he was here, all said that they were interested in it, so they have responded, they just want us to pick the date, and they will accommodate us, they just said, right now, they're at some conference in Miami, like, we're gonna get our act together by then, so we just kind of need to pick a date for ourselves to have them meet with us. So I guess I'll send you
Well, we all
email
got an
about it.
email, I think, about 5 o'clock today.
Yeah, we all got an email, yeah. But we just need to pick that date, right? Julie announced earlier that we got approved for the NYSERDA intern application program, that our application was approved. And so she's found the top 3 candidates that she could for us to, we've looked at their letters and their resumes, and Julie's already got one lined up for an interview, and so we're looking at these candidates to see who could be the best for us, and then we will try to hire them in April, because these college students are snapped up fast, and then they would, if it all works out, we would have an intern that would work June into August or so. And because of our status, NYSERDA is going to pay 90% of all of it. And so we're looking at the end, we're going to pay something like $600 for all the work. So awesome.
That's a win.
And then the biggest thing, the unified solar permit, Nate shared with us the resolution. Could we vote on that tonight? Or do you guys need to vote on, or, do we need to vote at next meeting?
We haven't discussed that at all. I mean, we have a resolution, but we haven't talked about it. I mean, we talked about it casually a couple times, but we haven't talked about it.
Yeah, so if we put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Yeah.
And I haven't seen it.
The resolution or the whole material?
I haven't seen the resolution at all.
Okay.
We'll get on the agenda for next week.
Okay. So I'll just quickly explain what that is. It's a way of streamlining applications for building permits for people who are using small scale solar systems for their houses. So currently it's more laborious, and this would just create a streamlined process where NYSERDA has a list of all these standard approved systems that you can get, and then if you're using that and setting it up in appropriate ways, that's cool. You just go in and get your permit. And if you are designing your own custom system for your house, then you get the bigger review by Mick. And so this saves him processing time so that he just has to do the customized work.
We'll get on the agenda for next time. Get that cleared up.
Is that it? Yeah, all done?
Mike?
Oh, now you got something?
Yeah, okay. That was good, Laura did good.
Did you want to say something about this?
Yes, what's that? About the resolution? About the resolution?
Yeah.
Well, not gonna now, because, no, I'm not gonna read it now here and take your time up and say something.
No, not my time.
No, I'm not gonna say something about the resolution, something else. We talked about no cost to us to apply for the intern. We certainly did not make an intern decision because we were talking about, we needed to figure out what's that intern gonna do? Who's gonna supervise it? What staff is gonna take care of the intern? Who's gonna, office, computer? We were gonna talk about all that stuff. So before we hire an intern, we need to talk about that stuff that we were gonna talk about.
When we hire them, we'll have to hire them in a meeting, so that's probably when we'll talk about it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we need to do all that stuff. We need to do that little homework and research. But that's what we said we were gonna do. And then the other very important thing is, we don't need no stinking Nate. We got Mark. Okay, I'm done.
Put that in the minutes.
Yeah, no problem.
No, we don't need no stinking.
No, the direct quote.
All right, next thing is communications and mayor's report. Nothing really. All right, last thing, as usual, public comment. We got some new public. What do we got?
Just quick, I have a job description, Rusty, for the intern, and I'll just email it to the board, okay?
Great, good try. Nice try.
You good, Julie? Julie, yeah, she's up. All right.
Your guys' turn now.
All right. For most of the board, I want to apologize for where I go with the public comment here. Since our last meeting, when we were mysteriously put on the board agenda and nobody knew how it got there, I cried baloney. All right. Takes a lot to get me heated. And I'm heated that the transparency in government that I've never worried about, here I experienced last week that nobody had the guts or the capability to speak to me directly about a problem they may have with parking at the Owego Donut Beer. Combined with the fact that your parking board showed up without contacting me as the owner of a business and potentially wipe out parking spots when it's the biggest complaint in all of Owego, I'm astounded. You know, the fact that and most of you who know me, takes a lot to get me fired up. I'm a pretty calm guy. The very next morning, to keep you guys in the loop, code enforcement shows up after the board meeting at Owego Donut Beer with tape measures measuring from all angles of the building. Unannounced, they come inside the building while we're open and customers are in there, measuring out all kinds of things without acknowledging to us why they were there. Okay, you think that's pretty good, right? And so Friday, I get this memo from code enforcement, who gave me a certificate of occupancy to open the building in December 17th. This says I need to, by March 30th, amend all these things that they missed, apparently, in their review of the original certificate. It's starting to feel a little like harassment. I've got a letter here I'm going to share with you, Mayor, that is my response. Okay. What they're talking specifically about is handicap parking. We have a direct conversation with Mick and Terry that we were going to discuss with the state about putting a handicap parking on North Avenue because that's where the handicapped entrance is.
Makes more sense to me.
It's pretty straightforward.
Now, in this letter of order to remedy, it talks about that based on our original DRI application, that we have not met the we have not met what we told them we were going to do. Our original DRI application, if you recall, was not for Owego Donut and Beer. No. It was for the public well. It was for the entire building. It was not for separating out the two buildings. It was a completely different scope, completely different plans. everything was completely different. The pandemic came. After the pandemic, we changed the scope. The first group we talked to was the DRI committee. We got full approval from DRI to move forward. The next thing we did was we went to code and had that same conversation. We spent tens of thousands of dollars on the architect drawings. They said, that's silly, you don't have to do it again. Anything that you change structurally, we need drawings. We spent another several $1,000s to have new drawings done for any structural changes.
Specifically the courtyard where you were at.
So in this letter, it's saying, it's citing our original documents, has nothing to do with Owego Donut and Beer. So
Not to mention the DRIs tied nothing in any way, shape, or form to code.
And so failure to do so means you will not receive a certificate of occupancy, which we already have, and you will be unable to open to the public. And that's,
It's asinine, quite frankly. And I, the transparency puts me over the edge. We've been fully transparent. We've had Mick and Terry out there, especially with the deck, 4 or 5 times from framing to where it sat. And they asked because they couldn't, it's the wrong time to be striping. I went and I striped to close it off at my own expense. And quite frankly, to give me 30 days in a March to secure a contractor to come in, we were going to repave the whole thing in the back, to then restripe, and then also to put down the markings for a handicap, let alone work with the state if we're going to try to get it out to the front. It's unrealistic. And if you want to shutter us, they want to shutter us, they can shutter us. And believe me, there will be a whole lot more questions that are coming from anybody regarding the project. So the same letter, Mike, I've given you, I've got going over to Terry and Mick's office. I've got it going as well to County Economic Development, things like that. And again, I apologize to most of the board because I know it's not there. I just wish whoever put it on the agenda had the guts to come talk to me, because if I don't know what the problem is, I can't fix it. And if you got 3 or 4 complaints or just one about it, that's fine. Let me know who it is. I'll sit down and talk to them. But if I don't know who's the issue or where it's coming from, I can't do anything about it. And I appreciate all the positive comments. But as we all know, you get 2 or 3 bad things ruins 1,000 very positive things. So again, I apologize to those of you this doesn't apply to, and I just wish whoever had put it on there had the guts. I'm not going to go foil the information because that's not who I am. But hopefully somebody will learn from it. So thank you for the time.
Thank you. I would say I didn't see that letter. Nobody knew about it until 4 hours ago, maybe right before the meeting.
Yeah, I've had
dated February 29th.
Yeah. So if there's hidden agendas, get them out in the open so we can deal with it. That's what I'm saying.
Thanks, guys. Public comment.
I don't know. Beer's open.
There you go. Motion to adjourn?
Well,
It's hard to follow that.
Mike and Julie, I mean, I don't blame them for being upset.
I don't
They
either.
should have been warned that somebody was gonna come and talk to them, not just walk in and do all kinds of crazy stuff and leave.
Yeah.
I mean, that is very rude.
Yeah, somebody needs to.
So they changed their plan, so in Mick's defense or whoever's defense, if they changed their plans with DRI and didn't change them with the code enforcement officer, maybe that's the issue.
Well, I think they did though. I can't speak either way, but I think they did. Who knows?
I got the plans, but
We'll
this
sort
is
it
not, this is not the venue for this. Mike's the mayor, Mike is the supervisor of the code.
We will sort it out.
That's what he'll do.
All right.
I move to adjourn.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. 1 week from today, not 2 weeks.
How much? I don't know.